Chapter 800. Su Meng, the Gentleman's Sword. A few days later, Liu left the Shaolin Temple and went down the river. He planned to go to Xuanwu City in the north of Ningzhou to ask for help from the Zhenwu sect. He passed by the 3 mountains and 4 waters in the Qinshan area of Longzhou and suddenly heard Little Meng's new nickname. The title of Gentleman's Sword is a curse to transmigrators. The original Gentleman's Sword, Mr. Yu, was cut off in the end. There was no more. He wanted to change the names of Reckless Monk and Thunderblade Furious Monk, but he got an even more vicious nickname. Little Meng would vomit blood? I really want to see Little Meng's expression now. Young man, you have to work harder on your path of acting tough. With a gloating smile on his face, Liu secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, by Zay's smuff, Glacier Swordsman is still passable. If he got a nickname like Gentleman's Sword, I would vomit blood too. A few days later, Ning Province's Xuanwu City could be seen in the distance. 20 miles north of Xuanwu City was the Zhenwu sect. The city was actually under the control of the Zhenwu sect. The Great Jin Imperial Court only had nominal control over Xuanwu City. Zhang Yuanshan, one of the 3 lay families of the Zhenwu sect. The Zhang Mansion is in Xuanwu City. After getting off the boat, Liu officially stepped into the city in the hinterland of the central region. Because the city was under the jurisdiction of the Zhenwu sect, no martial arts heroes dared to cause trouble in Xuanwu City. The city was very peaceful. As a result, Xuanwu City, which was the gateway of the Zhenwu sect to the outside world, was unexpectedly prosperous. There were many carriages and people. Walking into the city, he saw a bustling scene. I don't know Zhang Yuanshan, so I have to find Little Meng. Little Meng should be in Xuanwu City by now. Liu released his spirit and scanned the city. He found that Little Meng was not in Xuanwu City, but in a small town at the foot of Jinwu Mountain. This guy is drinking with Zhang Yuanshan in a shabby tavern. Liu smiled and turned to walk towards the town called Copper Dragon Town. Tonglong Town was located on the west side of the mountain gate of Zhenwu sect. It was only about 20 miles away from Xuanwu City. Even if Liu didn't use any supernatural powers, it would only take him a moment to reach the town with the lightness skill of Bai Zai. Little Meng, Big Brother's heart is bitter. In the tavern, Zhang Yuanshan was holding a wine jug and gulping it down. His breath reeked of alcohol as he complained to Little Meng. My family wants me to marry junior sister Mingxi of the Song family. I like Fu Xinjin, but I can't refuse my family's wishes. Our Zhang clan isn't as glorious as it seems on the surface. There were 3 great lay families in Jinwu: the Zhang family, the Song family, and the Yao family. Now, the Zhang family situation is not good. We haven't had a grandmaster for many years. Being suppressed by the Yao family, the situation is not optimistic. Under these circumstances, I can only marry junior sister Mingxi. The Zhang family and the Song family can join hands to fight the Yao family. I've been raised by my family and have high hopes placed on me. I have no choice. After pouring out his grievances, Zhang Yuanshan picked up the wine jug and gulped it down. Senior brother Zhang, I'll keep you company. Little Meng really couldn't interfere with such family matters and emotional entanglements. He could only drink with him. Come, let's drink. Today, let's drink 300 cups. Lifting the wine jug, Little Meng roared heroically. 300 cups? How about 3 cups? Just as Little Meng was bragging, a sneer came from outside the tavern. A gust of cold wind blew in. It seemed to have lowered the temperature by a few degrees. Brother Bai, you're here. Feeling the chill, Little Meng's eyes lit up. He laughed and stood up. Come in. Let's drink again. His white robe fluttered as Glacier Swordsman stepped into the shabby tavern. This is Glacier Swordsman? Zhang Yuanshan had never seen Bai Zai before, but he had heard Little Meng talk about him. When he saw Glacier Swordsman, he was so shocked that he sobered up. First on the ranking list of young masters, 9 apertures slash of the exterior. This was a martial arts legend. That's me. Glacier Swordsman unceremoniously walked to the table and sat down. He reached out and picked up a wine jug. Glacier Swordsman nodded lightly. Liu wanted to use Zhang Yuanshan to climb Martial Mountain and get the 7 strokes of heaven interception of the Jinwu sect. Naturally, he had to meet Zhang Yuanshan face to face. I just came out of Shaolin. Master Xian Ci took care of me and let me feel the cold chi of the black tortoise in the demon-subduing pagoda. Thank you. He lifted the wine jug and gestured to little Meng. Liu tilted his head back and emptied the jug in one gulp. Damn, Brother Bai's alcohol tolerance. Little Meng was so scared that he shuddered. He felt depressed again. A Jianghu hero's alcohol tolerance was also a way to show off. Didn't you see Master Qiao of the beggar sect show off when he drank? But alcohol tolerance was another reason for little Meng's sadness. The 3 of them were all Jianghu heroes. Well, Liu should count as well. Opening the way with wine, they soon got along well with each other and found each other congenial. Glacier Swordsman was first on the ranking list of young masters and a good friend of little Meng. Soon, Zhang Yuanshan no longer treated Bai Zhe as an outsider. He poured out his grievances, describing his emotional entanglement and his family's expectations. That's easy. Glacier Swordsman didn't seem to care about Zhang Yuanshan's entanglement at all. He waved his hand calmly and pointed out the right path. Isn't the conflict between the Zhen Wu sect's secular sects a conflict of martial strength? Your Zhang family has a grandmaster ancestor, but he's running out of life. He's worried that he won't be able to keep the family in check, so he wants you to marry him. Glacier Swordsman put down the wine jug and smiled. There are 2 solutions. The first is to prolong your life. Let your ancestor live for another 60 years, and the Zhang family situation will naturally be resolved. The second is to quickly advance your 9 acupores, condense the interior, and achieve oneness of heaven and men. Show this kind of potential, and this is the disposition of a grandmaster. Who dares to look down on you? These 2 solutions were indeed good. There were no problems with the righteous path. But it was easy for him to say that. Was it so easy to obtain something that could prolong one's life? That thing was priceless. Even if the Zhang family was rich, it would be amazing if they could afford a pill. Moreover, was it something that could be bought just because they wanted it? As for the second reason, it was even more wishful thinking. Was it possible to advance one's cultivation just because they wanted to? Brother Bai, I'm ashamed. I'm not talented enough to break through. Zhang Yuanshan let out a long sigh and remained silent. After the first plan, Zhang Yuanshan didn't even dare to think about the life-prolonging pills. What's so difficult about that? He handed over a jade bottle. Here's a century peach elixir. It can prolong one's life by 100 years. I'll give it to you. For Liu, an elixir that could prolong one's life by 100 years could only be fed to dogs. Any one of the elixirs of immortality and longevity in the Garden of the Immortal Mansion could allow the great emperor to live another life. It couldn't be easier to prolong the life of a grandmaster of the 7th level of the exterior by 100 years. Prolong one's life by 100 years? Century peach elixir? Zhang Yuanshan was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. As for little Meng, his mouth was wide open and he couldn't close it for a long time. Oh my God! Brother White, how could he be this rich? What he casually tossed out were all priceless treasures. Chapter 801. This elixir, he grabbed the jade bottle with trembling hands and opened the cap. A refreshing fragrance and vitality filled the air, making him feel comfortable as if every part of his body was glowing. Brother Bai, I can't accept it. This elixir was very important to Zhang Yuanshan. With this elixir, the Zhang family situation would be solved, and his own problem would be solved. But this was too precious. Although Bai Zhe and Little Meng were sworn friends. Zhang Yuanshan and Little Meng were sworn friends. But this was the first time he met Bai Zhe. Bai Zhe will never take back what I've given out. If you don't want it, I'll throw it away. His tone was light, and his face was cold. Bai Zhe didn't even raise his head. He picked up the wine jar and continued drinking. Okay, I can't thank you enough. Zhang Yuanshan took a deep breath, put away the bottle, and solemnly saluted. Then he picked up the wine jar and raised it in front of Bai Zhe. Brother Bai, I salute you. He picked up the wine jar, stretched his neck, and imitated by Zay. He actually drank the whole jar in one gulp. You guys are ruthless. Little Meng's mouth twitched a few times. He picked up the wine jar several times, but he couldn't summon the courage to finish it in one gulp. With my current alcohol tolerance, I'll be drunk to death, right? I'll definitely be drunk to death, right? Brother Zhang, you'd better take back the elixir that Brother Bai gave you. After reminding Zhang Yuanshan, Little Meng directly stood up. He really didn't want to see these two wine buckets showing off their alcohol tolerance. The feeling of being crushed in alcohol tolerance was really unpleasant. Should he ask the dominator of samsara in 6 realms to improve his alcohol tolerance next time? As soon as this idea came into his mind, it was extinguished. It was really intolerable to the heavens to use karma points on this. Yes, business is more important. Zhang Yuanshan threw away the wine jar and bowed deeply to Bai Zai. I can't thank you enough. Brother Bai, I'll never forget your kindness. Let's send you back. Bai Zai also stood up and turned his head to look outside the pub. After all, someone has been eavesdropping for a long time. Who knows what he's thinking? Hearing Bai Zai's words, Zhang Yuanshan's expression changed greatly. With a clang, he unsheathed his sword with a look of vigilance. Since he had such a precious treasure, he naturally had to be careful that someone would try to rob him of his treasure. Even though they were in the territory of the Zhenwu sect, their own people might be in more danger than outsiders. How could I, the yin-yang sword, Yao Xinghen, be such a shameless person? At this time, an angry snort came from outside the house. A 14 or 15-year-old youth, carrying a long and a short sword on his back, walked into the tavern angrily. Junior brother Yao. Seeing this young man, Zhang Yuanshan frowned. This Yao Xinghen was currently the most powerful of the 3 lay families of the Zhenwu sect. He was the one who had suppressed the Zhang family to the point of suffocation. The Yao clan appeared here and even eavesdropped on the matter of the Century Peach pill. Could it be? In an instant, Zhang Yuanshan's mind flashed with the countless scenes of the Yao family intercepting and snatching away the 100 life peach pills. Senior martial brother Zhang, I just heard that you have a friend with extraordinary martial arts, so I came to ask for some advice. Don't think too much. Yao Xinghen shook his head at Zhang Yuanshan. The elders of the family compete for the benefits of the sect. There are some conflicts, but we're all from the same sect. We can compete, but we won't harm each other. Senior martial brother Zhang, don't you understand this principle? You're right, junior martial brother. Zhang Yuanshan sighed and smiled. I'm overthinking. Speaking of this, Zhang Yuanshan pointed at Bai Zai and Little Meng. These two are my friends. One is Glacier Swordsman, #1 on the ranking list of young masters, and the other is Thunder, Blade Maniac Su Meng. Little Meng quickly took over the conversation and stopped Zhang Yuanshan from saying Thunderblade Furious Monk. Glacier Swordsman Bai Zai, the martial arts legend of the 9 apertures slash of the exterior? He's indeed peerless. Hearing the name of Glacier Swordsman, Yao Xinghen's eyes lit up, his face full of admiration. But when he heard Little Meng's name, he was puzzled. Isn't Reckless Monk 33rd on the ranking list of young masters? Blade Maniac Su Meng? In the 3 Mountains and 4 Waters region, there's Gentleman Sword Su Meng. Who's Blade Maniac Su Meng? Little Meng was about to vomit blood. Reckless Monk is one thing, but now there's a gentleman's sword. Can't we just have fun with them? A gentleman's sword would rather break than bend. His character is very similar to Little Meng's. Zhang Yuanshan didn't know what was going on, so he added another stab. Senior martial brother Zhang, Little Meng looked bitter. We're on the same side. Don't insult me, okay? I want to learn from Reckless Monk. Glancing at Bai Zai and Little Meng, Yao Xinghen finally chose Little Meng to challenge. After all, his strength was far inferior to Glacier Swordsman's. Challenging him to learn from him was not asking for trouble. Blade Maniac. Little Meng corrected him fiercely. He took a step forward and drew his long saber from his back. Come, I'll teach you how to be a good man. Feeling depressed, Little Meng naturally wanted to vent his anger on Yao Xinghen. I'd like to learn from you. Although Yao Xingliu didn't understand Little Meng's strange words, he knew they weren't good words. He drew two swords from his back, one long and one short. Without saying anything, he drew a different half-arc with the swords in his hands. Yin and yang were combined, and the sword style was perfectly round. The long sword in his right hand was strong and yang, while the short sword in his left hand was cold and soft. Yin and yang were combined, and the arc-shaped force rippled out, as if yin and yang were circulating. Yin and yang sword, you're really something. Little Meng laughed heartily and swung his saber. Mortal dust fall. This was the second style of Ananda, oath-breaking bladesmanship. When the saber was swung, the mortal dust rolled. This move stirred up Yao Xinghan's mind. All the memories from his childhood to adulthood flowed in his mind. His strict father, kind mother, and the love of his brothers and sisters all came to his mind. Of course, he also remembered his mischief when he was a child, which his father severely punished. More importantly, he remembered his youthful and ignorant feelings. She was a gentle and amiable girl. Since the first time he saw her, her figure had always lingered in his mind and appeared in his dreams. However, a few days ago, he suddenly heard a piece of news. The girl he had a crush on was going to be engaged to Zhang Yuanshan. It was like being struck by lightning. The youthful boy felt as if the sky was about to collapse. Song Mingxi, he muttered to himself and unconsciously called out the name engraved in his heart. TSK. A strange laugh sounded, and the cold blade was already on his neck. Yao Xinghan suddenly woke up. What did I say just now? The biggest secret in his heart was exposed. At this moment, Yao Xinghan was at a loss, and his face was full of panic. So it's senior brother Zhang's rival in love. Hearing the name Song Mingxi, everyone understood what was going on. This Yao boy had no other intentions but to find trouble with his rival in love. Hearing the words, rival in love, Yao Xinghan screamed and ran away, covering his face. Boy, you have to work hard to win your girl's heart. I have faith in you. Little Meng ruthlessly stabbed him. Yao Xinghan, who was running far away, staggered and ran faster. Century Peach Elixir? 100 years of life extension? Not long after, Zhang Yuanshan returned home and handed the elixir given to him by Zhe to the patriarch of the Zhang family. There's actually such a divine item. Opening the bottle and seeing the crystal-clear elixir, the patriarch's hands trembled as he felt the vast vitality that seemed to bring spring back to life. Glacier Swordsman by Zhe gave it to you to be able to give away such a precious treasure. Glacier Swordsman's background is extraordinary. To give you such a precious treasure, your friendship is extraordinary. Not bad. Not bad. This person's future is limitless. If you have such a relationship with him, you'll be a huge foreign aid to the Zhang family in the future. Yuan Shan is steady and steady. You're truly my family's Qilin. The patriarch was pleasantly surprised and praised Zhang Yuanshan endlessly. With this elixir, the patriarch could live for another 100 years. Within 100 years, the Zhang family would have a high chance of producing another grandmaster. This way, the Zhang family's predicament would be easily solved. Chapter 802. Brother Bai, this is the ascension of flying immortals, one of the 10 great sights of Marshall Mountain. The next day, the Zhang family's patriarch swallowed the elixir and regained his vigor. His white hair turned blue, and he returned to his prime and gained 100 years of life. The entire Zhang family was in an uproar. Thus, their great benefactor, the Glacier Swordsman, became the bodhisattva of the Zhang family. Under the strict request of the family, Zhang Yuanshan found Bai Zhe early in the morning and tried to build a relationship with him so that he could travel Marshall Mountain with Bai Zhe. Although Zhang Yuanshan was disgusted by this kind of utilitarian approach, as long as he didn't have any utilitarian intentions and treated him like a friend, it was fine. Little Meng didn't come along, because when he woke up in the morning, Little Meng found that his wig was made of a ponytail. Little Meng was furious. Little Meng was now an inn in Xuanwu City, working hard to cultivate the qi and blood nourishment technique taught by the glacier swordsman. He wanted his bald head to grow hair as soon as possible. Well, the so-called qi and blood nourishment technique was what Li Yu summarized as the human immortal martial path. His Majesty Emperor Yu couldn't help but do the same to little Meng, who had been harmed by countless people. Li Yu didn't have any ill intentions. He just left an observation point to record little Meng's cultivation insights, so that Li Yu's SMUF, Bai Zhe, could have a clear reference point. The primitive Emperor Little Meng's path of cultivation must be absolutely correct, and it must lead to the Tao fruit. When Little Meng's cultivation reached a level where he could detect this observation point, he would automatically erase it. The 10 sites of Martial Mountain are indeed extraordinary. Bai Zhe was born in the Zhongyue Kingdom, south of the Immensity Sea, under the snowy mountains, and north of the Ice River. Naturally, he had rarely seen the beautiful scenery of the central mainland, so he naturally had to praise it. In fact, after setting foot on Martial Mountain, Li Yu released a strand of his spirit to search for the inheritance of the 7 strokes of heaven interception. Tao birth and Tao destruction was the 7 strokes of heaven interception obtained by the Zhenwu sect. It was said that the inheritance of this sword came from the demon Buster Emperor of the northern Xianming true martial path. This was also the origin of the name Zhenwu sect. The 7 swords of heaven interception is a Taoist cultivation technique. It's rather similar to my own system. Compared to the Buddha's palm, the sword that the Zhenwu sect obtained is more valuable. His soul swept through the encampment of the Zhenwu sect. In addition to emptying this scripture depository, he also made a copy of the sword intent inheritance in the Zhenwu cave. What was truly valuable was actually only one of the 7 strokes of heaven interception, Tao birth and Tao destruction. For Li Yu, the cultivation method comprehended by the other true martial arts masters in the past was not essential. Although the philosophies of Buddhism and Taoism are somewhat different, in essence they are the same. With Li Yu's level, he quickly understood the essence of Tao birth and Tao annihilation. After withdrawing his spirit and bringing the sword intent of Tao birth and Tao annihilation into his mind. This was a sword technique, and what it demonstrated was its lethality. Tao birth and Tao destruction was in fact controlling the great Tao of heaven and earth. With a slash of the sword, Tao birth and Tao annihilation could be achieved with a single thought. In addition to the lethality it displayed, this sword also embodied the essence of cultivation. As expected, in this world, both Buddhism and Taoism follow the path of martial arts. They still cultivate essence into qi, qi into spirit, spirit into void, and void into Tao. However, the final Tao integration was not to control the rules of heaven and earth, but to create a Tao fruit. This was very interesting. While following Zhang Yuanshan to tour the beautiful scenery of Zhenwu, he exclaimed and gave appropriate comments from time to time. It really looked like he was touring the magnificent scenery of Zhenwu. In fact, the foundation of the Zhenwu sect had been emptied by Li Yu. For Li Yu, who could divide his mind into billions of parts, multitasking was too low level. It was normal for him to multitask. He left a part of his spirit to control his body and follow Zhang Yuanshan to tour the Zhenwu sect. The rest of his spirit and consciousness were constantly analyzing the sword moves of the sky-severing sword manual. Putting aside the power of the sword technique, he directly analyzed its essence and understood the fundamental concept of this cultivation method. Thus, Li Yu's self-created glacier sword technique was more suitable for this world. This was the reason why Li Yu referred to this world's cultivation method. If it were not for the Tao fruit and the glacier sword technique to fully fit this world, Li Yu would not have to go through so much trouble. Any of the cultivation techniques that he had collected over the years would not be inferior to this sword technique. Under the analysis of billions of parts of his spirit, the essence of Tao birth and Tao annihilation had been thoroughly studied by Li Yu. I can't just give away the benefits I got from the Zhenwu sect. Previously, when he messed around in the Shaolin Temple, he actually did the Shaolin Temple a big favor by eliminating 2 big enemies. The Zhenwu sect also had to give a gift in return. Looking up at Zhang Yuanshan, who was leading the way, Li Yu's lips curled into a smile. Young man, you've helped this poor priest. This poor priest will also give you a gift. With an idea in mind, Li Yu followed Zhang Yuanshan and traveled all the way. Brother Bai, this is the sword testing cliff. Zhang Yuanshan pointed to a straight and steep cliff in front of them and introduced it to Li Yu. This is the cliff where the founder tested his sword technique after he comprehended it. This cliff was cut out by the founder's sword. In front of them was a towering mountain. However, this mountain was cut in half by someone, and what greeted them was a smooth and steep cliff. The power of a single sword is so great. As a swordsman, Bai Zhang naturally had to show his admiration for this sword technique. But in Li Yu's mind, he had already made up his mind. Since this is the place where the founder tested his sword technique, then it's very normal for the founder to leave some opportunities for the younger disciples. Without leaving a trace, he flicked his finger, and an undetectable light spot instantly fell into the huge cliff in front of them. Brother Bai, every time I see the sword testing cliff, my blood will boil. Isn't this the goal of our cultivation? Zhang Yuanshan said as he walked to the cliff. He reached out his hand to touch the smooth cliff and exclaimed, Dharmakaya realm, Earth immortal realm, what extraordinary power! As he was speaking, Zhang Yuanshan, who touched the cliff, suddenly trembled. Clang! A shocking sword light suddenly appeared in his mind, tearing the sky and cutting the clouds, destroying the heaven and earth. When this sword was cut out, it was as if yin and yang were circulating, life and death were reincarnated, flowers bloomed and withered, and Tao was born and Tao was destroyed. This is Tao was born and Tao was destroyed. This sword technique is still here. Zhang Yuanshan was surprised and happy. He actually obtained the highest inheritance of his sect just like that. Zhang Yuanshan, who was immersed in the sword intent, did not know that when he touched the cliff, a huge change occurred in the outside world as well. Clang! A sword light shot up into the sky and into the clouds. The entire sword testing cliff exploded with endless light, as if this huge cliff had turned into a long sword that reached the heavens. The sword rushed out, shaking the heaven and earth. At this moment, everyone on Marshall Mountain was shocked. They all looked at the sword trial cliff in horror. The sword testing cliff? Could it be that the founder really left a sword aura in the sword testing cliff? Many figures whizzed up and sped toward the sword testing cliff. That's Zhang Yuanshan. Did he cause this phenomenon? At this moment, Zhang Yuanshan was the center of attention. Young man, I'm giving you an opportunity. Don't thank me. Li Yu laughed secretly and stood with his hands behind his back. He looked amazed. The Zhenwu sect is indeed an orthodox sect. Even a cliff has such a powerful sword aura. It's so mighty. Chapter 803. Zhang Yuanshan became famous. All the old Taoists of the Zhenwu sect treated him like a treasure. This was because he had discovered the peerless inheritance left behind by the patriarch. He had obtained the peerless inheritance left behind by the patriarch. More importantly, he was the only one who had obtained it. Countless people who came later all gave it a try, but they were unable to draw out the sword chi from the cliff. They were unable to sense the sword chi inheritance anymore. Yin-yang sword. This swordsmanship that alternated life and death and cycled endlessly was called yin and yang swordsmanship. His Majesty Emperor Yu wanted to save trouble and directly named it as such. This was a swordsmanship that Li Yu had derived after comprehending the essence of Tao birth and Tao destruction. It was on par with Zhenwu's seven-stroke scripture. The patriarch left behind such an inheritance, and we haven't obtained it after so many years. We're ashamed to let this peerless sword technique be covered in dust. Fortunately, Zhang Yuanshan obtained the inheritance. Otherwise, our Zhenwu sect's peerless technique would be covered in dust for many years. From the overwhelming sword chi, the group of old Taoists of Zhenwu all sensed the aura that came from their own sect and came from the same lineage. Moreover, the sword Qi burst out from the place where their patriarch tested his sword. Therefore, they had no doubt about it all. This was naturally the inheritance left behind by the patriarch. Well, Liu, the supreme patriarch, smiled and said nothing. Patriarchs, I can't describe or write about this sword technique. Surrounded by a group of old Taoists who stared at him with shining eyes, Zhang Yuanshan felt great pressure. Patriarchs, I can only feel this yin-yang sword. My realm is not high enough to describe it. Zhang Yuanshan was overjoyed that he had obtained this sword technique inheritance by accident. However, he really could not describe this sword technique. It's normal that you can't describe a Dharmakaya sword technique. Although the old Taoists were eager, they could only sigh regretfully. We must cultivate Zhang Yuanshan into a Dharmakaya. Even if he doesn't become a Dharmakaya, he must at least become a half-step Dharmakaya. Even if we have to use resources, we must make him a half-step Dharmakaya. Without the realm of half-step to Dharmakaya, it was impossible to describe this swordsmanship. In order to pass down this peerless swordsmanship in the sect, the group of old Taoists reached a consensus. At this moment, Zhang Yuanshan was the sect's most precious treasure. As a result, Zhang Yuanshan, the guy who stepped on dog shit, became the most popular person in the Zhenwu sect. Countless disciples of the Zhenwu sect beat their chests and stomped their feet. Why did Zhang Yuanshan go today? Why didn't I go to the sword testing cliff? If I go, this peerless inheritance of the yin and yang sword will be mine. There were inheritances at the sword testing cliff, but what about other places? Was there an inheritance as well? As a result, the entire Zhenwu sect was in a frenzy to find the ancestral master's legacy. One by one, the disciples of the true martial sect drilled into the pile of old books to study the whereabouts of the patriarch and search for the patriarch's footprints. So much so that they didn't even let go of the ancestral master's toilet. As for the crazy actions of these true martial disciples, Liu thought, "Young man, you think too much. If I don't do it, you won't get anything even if you stay in the sword testing cliff for the rest of your life." Since the Zhenwu sect had done such a big thing, Liu naturally couldn't continue his travels. While the Zhang family's patriarch expressed his gratitude, Liu was escorted down the mountain. Now that the Zhenwu sect is done, where should I go next? Liu looked around and found that he had nowhere to go for the time being. I'll settle down for a while and incorporate the essence of the Zhenwu sect's Tao birth and Tao destruction into the glacier sword technique. After leaving the mountain, although the Zhang family repeatedly invited him to stay, Liu didn't plan to stay in the Zhenwu sect any longer. He immediately bid farewell and left. Brother bye, brother bye. Before Liu could walk out of Xuanwu City, Little Ming yelled and rushed up to him. Brother Bai, the qi and blood nourishment technique you taught me is really amazing. Look, my hair is growing out. Little Ming grabbed a strand of hair and waved it at Liu excitedly. I came across this secret technique by accident. It's very useful for regulating the body and nourishing the qi and blood. Liu nodded at Little Ming, then turned his head away with a look of disdain. Young man, you're a man. Isn't it too girly to stroke a strand of hair like that? Seeing Liu's expression, Little Ming instantly realized the problem. He quickly let go of the strand of hair and coughed dryly. Brother Bai, this secret technique seems to have a lot of potential. After I started practicing it, I found that the Golden Bell Shield technique seemed to have improved a lot. I don't know about that. I specialize in swordsmanship. I'm not interested in body-refining techniques. Since it's useful, you can continue to practice it. The qi and blood nourishment technique that Liu taught him was actually the human immortal martial path. However, Liu only left behind the practice method and no description of the power of the realm. Therefore, Little Ming didn't know that this magical power could be reborn from a drop of blood and had a myriad of changes. Compared to the 8-9 mysterious art that he planned to practice, in terms of changes, it was more than just 3 heads and 6 arms, and 72 transformations. If he continued to practice it, would Little Ming have another title like Shun Jun of 100 Transformations, or myriad transformations master in the future. Liu actually had some mischievous expectations. Brother Bai, I can't thank you enough for your generosity. After practicing for a while, little Ming realized that this qi and blood nourishment technique had an extraordinary origin. It wasn't just for regulating the body and nourishing the qi and blood, as Bai Zhe said. You're welcome. Liu waved his hand indifferently. Bai Zhe, this alternate account, had such a cold personality. Since he was putting on an act, Liu naturally had to act in accordance with his identity. In fact, the human immortal martial path that Liu taught him didn't conflict with little Ming's future path and wouldn't interfere with his cultivation path. This human immortal martial path that only cultivated the body and cultivated it didn't conflict with any other cultivation path. After all, no matter what cultivation method one practiced, the body was the foundation. There were only benefits to having a strong body. There wouldn't be any conflicts. Brother Bai, yesterday on Martial Mountain, the sword Qi soared into the sky. Today, the Zhang family reported that senior brother Zhang obtained the ancestral master's inheritance. I'm afraid I won't be able to go out for a while. Little Meng looked up at Liu. Brother Bai, what plans do you have for your next trip? I don't have any plans. I'm just going to travel around Jianghu and meet the heroes of the world. I'm going to perfect my interior and break through to the exterior in one go. This was indeed the cultivation path of the alternate account by Zhe. Although, if he wanted to break through, he could directly rush to the Nirvana realm and was only one step away from the fruit of Tao. However, it was hard to say whether he could achieve the fruit of Tao with that method. He still had to walk the path of cultivation again and strengthen it step by step. Only then would he have the confidence to achieve the fruit of Tao. I'm going to East City in Hung State to find senior brother Qi Jingyan. Brother Bai, are you interested in going with me? Jinwu sent such a big thing, so the world would definitely pay attention to it. If he stayed here and was seen by the Shaolin monks, what would they do? Should he destroy the Thunderblade Furious monks' kung fu? In order to not embarrass everyone, little Ming had to run away. Hung State? It's not far from Divine Capital of River East. I'm going to Divine Capital. It's on the way, so I'll go with you to Hung State. Hung State. Some interesting things happened there. Since he had nothing to do, he might as well go and have a look. Only the people of the Chui clan would do something like this in the most flourishing waterway in the world, causing frost to spread for 100 miles and destroying countless farmlands. Chui family, little Meng shook his head. He did not have a good impression of the Chui clan. However, this kind of tyrannical aristocratic family was not something that little Meng could provoke. Even the family of this body, the Su family of the god's capital, was not even worthy of carrying shoes for such aristocratic families. Without another word, the ship continued forward. Not long after, they entered Hung State. After staying in a room for a long time, little Meng decided to go out and take a breather. Bai Zhe went back to his room to sleep. Little Meng walked out of the suite alone and went downstairs to the first floor of the ship. There was a huge restaurant here. At this moment, there were sounds of fighting coming from the restaurant. Little Meng, who was feeling bored, wanted to watch the fun. He walked to the entrance of the restaurant. Shan Xiaomei, you can't escape today. Why don't you surrender and let me have some fun? Hee, Shan Xiaomei, don't care about that brute. Let me take care of you. There was a man and a woman. One of them was a ferocious man, while the other was a beautiful woman. The two of them were surrounding a beautiful young girl with an aura as noble as a lotus. They attacked her while spitting out obscenities. Iron Hand Devilman, Joy Devilman, I, Shan Xiaomei, am not easy to bully. The girl with a lotus-like temperament was wearing a plain long dress. She held a red, long sword in her hand, which emitted rays of light and resisted the attacks of the two with difficulty. The 19 Devilmen of the Destruction Sect? How dare they attack Shan Xiaomei, the Red Cloud Sword, in Hung State? Little Meng frowned slightly when he heard the names of the two parties. The Destruction Sect was the sect where the evil Master Han Guang belonged to. After the evil Master Han Guang faked his death and pretended to be the abbot of Shaolin, the destruction sect was not as powerful as before. These 19 devil men, who were not even of the exterior level, dared to make trouble in Hung State, where the righteous sects gathered. Did they want to die? As for the Red Cloud Sword, Shan Xiomei, she was a famous heroine in the Three Mountains and Four Waters area where Little Meng got the title of Gentleman's Sword. The reason she was famous was not because of her high kung fu, but because of her good looks. This is an era where looks matter. Little Meng smiled and shook his head. He reached for the hilt of the sword at his waist. The Destruction Sect and Shaolin were old rivals. Although Little Meng had been expelled from Shaolin, he still had his master and junior brothers in the temple. Little Meng naturally regarded Shaolin as his hometown. Just as he was about to attack, Little Meng suddenly saw a young man in a brocade robe across the restaurant, holding his sword with a righteous face. "Stop!" The man in the brocade robe shouted and pulled out the long sword at his waist. "How dare you be so arrogant? Lady Shan, let me help you." A surge of noble spirit suddenly rushed up. Little Meng suddenly felt like he was looking at Gu Chongqing. After a careful analysis, he found the difference between the two. Gu Chongqing's noble spirit was essentially sword chi. It was noble sword chi. The man in the brocade robe's noble spirit was genuine chi. There was a fundamental difference between the two. Noble spirit from the Wang family of River East. He's from a Confucian sect. The Wang family of River East was one of the 14 aristocratic families in the world. With such a person helping, there was no need for Little Meng to meddle. Just as everyone's attention was drawn to the man in the brocade robe, a scream suddenly came from a corner of the restaurant. Two young men who were sitting opposite each other and drinking were suddenly attacked. A drunkard who was lying on the table suddenly attacked. A pair of chopsticks flew out like lightning. A chopstick pierced the back of the head of a young man in a blue robe, killing him on the spot. The other chopstick quickly pierced the throat of a man in a blue robe. Unrelenting tower. The man in the blue robe jumped up and dodged the chopsticks. He broke the window of the restaurant and rushed into the river outside the ship. "You can't escape." The drunkard followed closely and also rushed into the river. As the water splashed, blood appeared on the river surface. But no one knew who died. Master Wan, Master Tang. At this time, someone in the restaurant who knew the two young men who were attacked shouted out their identities in panic. At this time, Master Wang, who was fighting, injured the Joy Devil Man with a sword. Retreat. With Master Wang's help, they couldn't do anything. The Iron Hand Devil Man forced Shan Xiomei back with one palm and shouted at the Joy Devil Man. Bang! The Joy Devil Man suddenly burst out a cloud of red mist, and a sweet smell spread out. Poisonous smoke. The young master of the Wang family roared, but he had no choice but to stop. "Let's go." The two devil men jumped out and rushed out of the door. Then, of all people, they rushed in Little Meng's direction. "Go away." Seeing Little Meng standing outside the door, the Iron Hand Devil Man slapped him without hesitation. This is really an unexpected disaster. Everyone sighed. They only felt that this young Confucian scholar was really unlucky. He actually blocked the way of these devils when they were escaping. Wasn't he courting death? Chapter 805. Go to Hell. Iron Hand Devilman's palm was as fast as thunder. With the momentum, he slapped Little Meng. In Iron Hand Devilman's eyes, this was just an ordinary scholar in his teens. Even if he had a sword, it was just an ornament. Slapping a boy to death was enough to vent his anger. "Bastard! How dare you be so violent?" Seeing this innocent young scholar about to be killed, young Master Wang shouted angrily. He was angry and annoyed. Unfortunately, he was too far away and blocked by the poisonous smoke to save him. The Iron Hand Devil Man must be properly punished. Only in this way can the noble spirit of the Wang family of Jiangdong be displayed. Young Master Wang held the sword hilt tightly. "I didn't come to you, and you dare to provoke me?" Little Meng snorted and unsheathed his long sword. A cold light flashed, like a bright star in the dark night sky. Puff! Puff! Two sounds of sharp blade piercing into flesh could be heard almost at the same time. Plop! Both Iron Hand Devilman and Joy Devilman were stabbed between their eyebrows. They fell to the ground and no longer made any sound. What's going on? Where did this young man come from? How could he be so strong? The two famous human devils were killed by a single sword strike, just like that. It was like killing chickens. At this moment, the whole restaurant fell into silence. Everyone looked at each other with their mouths wide open. Sharpening a sword for 10 years, the frost blade has never been tested. Today, I will show my skills to the king. Who has an injustice? At this moment, little Meng, who liked to show his skills in front of people, naturally knew what to do. He flicked the long sword with his finger, and it made a buzzing sound. His white clothes fluttered in the wind as he recited poems while flicking the sword. Anyone who saw him would praise him. What a young swordsman! However, looking at your swordsmanship, could you be the famous gentleman, Sword Meng Qi? At this moment, Shan Xiaomei, who was as beautiful as a lotus, uttered the name that made little Meng's face fall. Shan Xiaomei came from the 3 mountains and 4 waters, where little Meng got the title of Gentleman's Sword. Holy sh**t. Little Meng felt depressed, but he had to put on a smile on his face. Then, he corrected his name again, Crazy Blade. Everyone in the restaurant was speechless. You're obviously using a sword, so why are you called Mad Blade? What kind of joke was this? Thank you, young master, for killing the murderous demon. Shan Xiaomei bowed to little Meng and thanked her. I'm Wang Su from River East. I admire your extraordinary swordsmanship. That imposing young master of the Wang family walked up to little Meng and cupped his fists in greeting. Everyone has the right to punish evil and demonic cultivators. This humble one is actually better at using the saber. Little Meng was really sick of the title Gentleman's Sword. Wang Su spread out his hands to express, Brother, I don't know what to say. Everyone, I still have important matters to attend to, so I will take my leave now. There was still a long way to go before he could change his nickname. Little Meng did not want to stay here any longer. Hearing the title Gentleman's Sword again was a form of torture for him. The noble sword was a curse. I don't even have a girlfriend. How can I be like old you? Little Meng cupped his fists in greeting and left the restaurant. He walked along the corridor outside the cabin. The wind from the river blew, and little Meng's gloominess dissipated. The 6 Fan School created the heaven, earth, and man lists. If I want to change my nickname, I'm afraid I have to start with the 6 Fan School. Little Meng suddenly had an idea. If he joined the 6 Fan School, wouldn't it be very convenient to give himself a nickname? Let's do it. Little Meng clapped his hands hard. He planned to sneak into the 6 Fan School and change his name. Of course, there was another reason. During this time, Little Meng also learned about the Su family of Luoyang. The Su family was also one of the super arresters of the 6 Fan School. Dong! Just then, a slight noise from the deck reached Little Meng's ears. What's going on? Little Meng walked towards the source of the voice. He secretly gripped the hilt of his sword. Even the assassins of the unrelenting tower had appeared on this ship. He could not afford to be careless. Little Meng searched for a while and found a person near the corner of the deck. This person's clothes were tattered and he was covered in blood. Is this young Master Tang? Little Meng recognized him as the young Master Tang who had been assassinated earlier. He escaped from the unrelenting tower? He's not simple. The unrelenting tower, one of the 9 evil paths, was an assassin organization that was feared in the Jianghu. It was said that even grandmasters had been assassinated by the tower. You're lucky to have met me. I have a lot of healing items with me. When doing missions in the reincarnation space, healing items were a necessity. Little Meng took out a bottle of Jin Shuang ointment and was about to save this young Master Tang. Just as he reached out his hand, he found that the man was already dead. You fought with your last breath to climb up. Your will to live is not bad. Unfortunately, it's a little too late. Little Meng sighed, wielding a sword, riding on a horse, wielding the phantom rain. Bones piled up and birds flew away. The mortal world is like a tide, and people are like water. How many people in the Jianghu can survive? In the Jianghu, it was either killing or being killed. This kind of thing would never end. Little Meng suddenly found that this young Master Tang was wearing a mask made of human skin. But under the mask was a face full of scars. It was a horrifying face. With such a face, it was no wonder that he wore a mask. When completing a samsara task, don't show your true face. That way, don't expose your identity as a samsara traveler. I happen to have a use for this human skin mask. Little Meng took off the mask on young Master Tang's face and pushed him into the water. I don't want to provoke the assassins of the unrelenting tower. Every wrong has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. I only borrowed your mask and used it in the samsara dimension. I can't help you with your revenge. It was best not to provoke an assassin organization like the unrelenting tower. After all, it was too troublesome. After this episode, Little Meng was no longer in the mood to wander around. He turned around and returned to the suite. Brother Bai, aren't you asleep? Why are you up again? Little Meng had just entered the door and found Bai Zhe sitting in the living room. He was surprised. I heard a fight outside, so I took a look. Bai Zhe nodded faintly. In fact, he was thinking about young Master Tang, who had just been put into the resource vault. Yes, young Master Tang, who was pushed into the water by Little Meng, was put away by Li Yu. His spirit is still intact, and his body is intact. I haven't really used the resurrection method I got from the Master God. This young Master Tang is also useful. It's a good opportunity to test it. Li Yu's resurrection spell included the 9 turns yang grass that he had obtained from the world of Emperor Huang, as well as the resurrection of the Lord. He hadn't tested this resurrection method yet. It was a good opportunity to test it on young Master Tang. After saying goodbye to Little Meng, Li Yu returned to the room. He waved his hand and used the method of the Master God to drive the power of rule. He injected young Master Tang's spirit into his body and reconstructed his body and spirit by injecting vitality. You're injured all over. I'll heal you while I'm at it. With a flash of light, young Master Tang's wounds were healed and he was fully recovered. I'll let him out when the time is right. Looking at the fully repaired and resurrected young Master Tang in the resource vault, Li Yu smiled. Little Meng will also use the identity of young Master Tang. When he finds out that the real young Master Tang is still alive, I'm sure Little Meng's expression will be very interesting. Chapter 806. The next morning, the junk ship arrived at East City of Hangzhou. When Little Meng walked out of the junk ship, he found that Wang Su and Shan Xiaomei seemed to have fallen in love with each other and were traveling together. Damn, so fast. They just met, and they're already hooking up? Little Meng frowned slightly at such a scene. He had a feeling that only the world he had come from before he had transmigrated had this kind of speed. Was this world also so open? Interesting. Liu glanced at Shan Xiaomei in front of him, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Fairy of the Ninth Heaven? How interesting. With his realm, he naturally saw through Shan Xiaomei's problem at a glance. Fairy of the Ninth Heaven practiced Sambhogakaya and had countless doppelgangers. Then each doppelganger would find a sex stove to fall in love with, gathering thousands of love strands, and finally cut off the love strands to be heartless in order to achieve transcendence. This cultivation method is somewhat similar to that of Lu Mei in Wang Lin's world, the Thousand Illusions Ruthless Tao. It was hard to have a good impression of this kind of person who played with people's feelings. Li Yu smiled and didn't bother to pay attention to Fairy of the Ninth Heaven. As long as you don't mess with me, you can find whoever you want to fall in love with. You can find as many people as you want to fall in love with. Is that Glacier Swordsman? Shan Xiaomei stepped out of the cabin with Little Meng and was talking and laughing with Wang Su, the young master of the Wang family. She suddenly saw Bai Zhe and felt the cold and sharp breath from Bai Zhe. A strange light flashed in her eyes. Glacier Swordsman? The one who suddenly appeared first on the ranking list of young masters? Wang Su turned his head to look at Bai Zhe. He saw his white robe fluttering in the wind, handsome and elegant, and faintly revealed a sense of transcendence. Wang Su felt a little annoyed. I was showing off in front of a beauty, and you came out like this. Are you trying to ruin my show? Even if you're first on the ranking list of young masters, you're nothing in front of the Wang family of River East. My servants are all of the exterior realm. They can easily crush you to death. Fortunately, the glacier swordsman had a cold face and completely disdained Shan Xiaomei's beauty. He had no intention of greeting her, which made Wang secretly relieved. Young man, take care of yourself. You're already someone's reserved cultivation vessel. Liu glanced at them indifferently and laughed in his heart. He flicked his sleeves and walked forward, ignoring them completely. Senior brother Qi is managing a rice shop? Little Meng asked around in the city and found where Qi Jingyan was. After a short while, they arrived at the flour-washing rice shop. All right, the great sects still need to eat. Although Little Meng felt that there was something wrong with the business style of the famous Jianghu. However, on second thought, real life was not a novel. Famous sects also had to eat, and doing business was very normal. I'm Manager Qi's cousin. Could I trouble you to pass on a message? When they arrived at the shop, Little Meng greeted the shop assistant. Manager Qi's cousin? Please come in. The assistant did not dare to delay and hurriedly led the two to the back hall to find Qi Jingyan. Cousin, I'm here to ask you for a future. Little Meng smiled strangely and winked at Qi Jingyan. Good that you're here. With the assistant present, Qi Jingyan nodded and led Little Meng and Bai Zhe to the living room in the back hall. Senior brother Qi, let me introduce you. This is brother Bai, glacier swordsman Bai Zhe. Although Qi Jingyan had already mentioned Bai Zhe to his Samsara teammates, this was the first time he had seen Bai Zhe and was about to introduce him. The #1 martial arts legend on the ranking list of young masters. Your reputation is like thunder. Qi Jingyan looked at Bai Zhe with a fervent expression. The expression in his eyes seemed to be somewhat fervent. For Qi Jingyan, Bai Zhe was not from a famous sect, nor was he from an aristocratic family. For him to have such achievements was in line with his ideals. It's just a false reputation. Liu calmly waved his hand and glanced at Qi Jingyan. He smiled inwardly. This was the successor of the Devil Lord. When Little Meng rescued Monk Zhen Hui in the Immensity Sea, he had entered the Samsara space in the Fish Sea. During that mission, Little Meng received the Thunder God's mark, Gu Shaoxing received the Celestial Quartz Stone Tablet, and Qi Jingyan received the Devil Lord's legacy. The Devil Lord's legacy comes from the bloodline. Right now, Qi Jingyan is at the critical moment of transforming his demon body. He can't use much strength yet. Of course, Liu did not care about the Devil Lord's legacy. But Qi Jingyan was an interesting person. This Qi Jingyan was a revolutionary. He wanted to revolutionize the world and bring fairness to the world. He wanted everyone to learn martial arts and be able to control their own destiny. He wanted all the people at the bottom to have the power to resist the powerful. Rise up, slaves who are hungry and cold. Rise up, people who are suffering all over the world. Your blood is boiling. Fight for the truth. Beat the old world to a pulp. Slaves, rise up, rise up. Liu began to sing the revolutionary song in his heart. A descendant of the Devil Lord, the biggest devil in the world, was determined to turn over a new leaf. It was simply too happy. Of course, this was the biggest devil's thought. Liu wouldn't dare to say such words, even if he was beaten to death. What? Senior brother Qi was bullied? Your cousin's tendons and veins were cut off by a small family in East City? How dare they? While Liu's mind was filled with thoughts, Xiao Meng was talking to Qi Jingyan. Hearing Qi Jingyan say that his cousin was crippled by a small family in the city, Xiao Meng was furious. It's not just a small family. The Huanhua Sword sect and the Wang family of River East are fighting for the control of East City. The Yi family must have turned to the Wang family of River East. This matter involves the fight between the sect and the aristocratic families. I don't dare to provoke a dispute. If there was a direct conflict between the Huanhua Sword sect and the Wang family of River East, it would be a shocking event. This kind of private struggle between agents was normal. Neither side wanted to have a direct conflict. I see. Little Meng nodded. Let's not talk about these sad things. It's rare for us to get together today. Let's drink. Let's drink. Okay. Qi Jingyan smiled. I'm overjoyed to see you too. But the dishes are not ready yet. I need to prepare them. You don't have to go. You warm the wine. I'll buy some food. Little Meng patted his chest with a look that said, I have money. Then, He turned around and ran out of the rice shop to buy some food. Little Meng, you're still so forthright. Qi Jingyan did not doubt him. He picked up a copper pot, poured the wine, set up the stove, and began to warm the wine. Huh. Li Yu smiled and didn't say anything. In fact, Little Meng's trip was not as simple as buying food. He would be embarrassed to come back if he did not chop off some heads. Chapter 807. In less than 15 minutes, Little Meng returned. With a few lotus leaf pouches in his hand and a sword in his hand, he walked in with a smile. You're back so soon? Qi Jingyan was warming the wine when he spoke to Little Meng. Top-grade osmanthus wine. Not bad. Senior brother Qi hid such good stuff. Little Meng smelled the wine and nodded in admiration. He put down the lotus leaf bag and took out the marinated beef and braised pig head. I bought some food. Little Meng put a sword on the table and looked at Qi Jingyan with a smile. I also picked up a sword on the way. Huh? Qi Jingyan looked at the sword on the table and was shocked. His pupils constricted. He recognized the sword. It was the sword that had severed his cousin's tendons and tendons. It was the Yi family's tribute, Ghost Shadow Sword Li Sui. The sword was here, and the person was here. Ghost Shadow Sword Li Sui, a 7 apertures master. It had only been 15 minutes, and he still had to buy food and wine. He had killed Ghost Shadow Sword in one move. Little Meng had become so powerful. The head has been taken, but the wine is not warm yet. Li Yu nodded at Little Meng. Not bad. You've improved a lot recently. After cultivating the immortal martial arts Li Yu had given him, Little Meng had only opened 6 apertures: eye, ear, and nose. But his strength had improved greatly. A mere 7 apertures Ghost Shadow Sword could be cut down in one strike. You're all so powerful. If I don't work harder, I'll be left behind. Little Meng's words were sincere. Jiang Jiwei was already 10th on the ranking list of young masters. Gu Chongqing was only 20th, but that was because his achievements were not impressive. His strength was comparable to Jiang Jiwei's. Zhang Yuanshan had received the ancestral master's legacy. His sword Qi would definitely improve greatly. As for Bai Zhe, there was no need to talk about him. Other than Qi Jingyan and Qi Jingyan, everyone else was about to soar. If they did not work hard, they would be left behind. I'm even weaker. Hearing the words abandoned by you, Qi Jingyan's eyes narrowed slightly, but he answered as if nothing had happened. Li Yu smiled faintly. The Devil Lord's successor would soon reconstruct his devil body and soar into the sky. If you're weak, others don't even need to live anymore. The 3 of them chatted, drank, and ate. Time slowly passed. During this period, the Yi clan came to cause trouble once. Then, Little Meng said, Which eye of yours saw us killing people? How dare you slander the disciples of Huanhua Sword Sect? Do you want to be enemies with our sect? You want to declare war on our sect? The Yi family ran away with their tails between their legs. The next day, while Li Yu was meditating in a room in the backyard of the rice shop, organizing the 7 strokes of heaven interception that he had obtained from the Zhenwu sect, a white-faced fatty came to the rice shop. This man was Lin Mu, the manager of the Huanhua Sword sect in Luoyi City. Qi Jingyan was the deputy, and Manager Lin was the supervisor. Today, Lord Tang V is holding a banquet in Flower Moon House. The Tang family is leaning toward us, so we have to give him face. Marshal Nephew Qi, let's go. Manager Lin instructed Qi Jingyan as soon as he entered the room. Okay. Since Qi Jingyan was one of the managers in East City, he naturally could not refuse. By the way, you have a cousin here? Well, a young man in white? Let them go together. Before Manager Lin left, he seemed to have thought of something. He turned his head and said to Qi Jingyan. Well, hearing this, Qi Jingyan was a little embarrassed. If he wanted Little Meng to go, it would not be a problem. But he could not do anything about Bai Zhe. After all, he and Bai Zhe had just met. He could not make the decision for Bai Zhe. I want to see the heroes of East City. Of course, I can't miss this opportunity. At this time, Li Yu came out of the door and agreed with a smile. Seeing Li Yu's appearance, Qi Jingyan was slightly stunned. At this moment, Bai Zhe was like a completely different person from before. Not only was he no longer exuding a faint chill, he was no longer as cold as before. There was no trace of the glacier swordsman at all. Well, let's go together tonight. Manager Lin glanced at Li Yu and nodded indifferently. Then he turned and walked out of the rice shop. Brother Bai, Qi Jingyan, was a little confused by Bai Zhe's abnormality. He did not know what had happened. It's just returning to the original state. Li Yu smiled at Qi Jingyan and said the shocking news lightly. Returning to the original state? How could Qi Jingyan, who had inherited the Devil Lord, not know what returning to the original state meant? After the completion of 9 apertures, the hidden latch would be condensed and the oneness of heaven and men would be achieved. After that, it would be a leap to the exterior. At this moment, Glacier Swordsman was no longer emitting chill. He had indeed returned to the original state. He was only one step away from the exterior. Glacier Swordsman Bai Zhe is indeed first on the ranking list of young masters. He is already ahead of all his peers. Although Qi Jingyan was shocked, he did not lose confidence. As long as his devil body was rebuilt, he would soon soar to the top and be no worse than them. A day passed quickly. In the evening, Qi Jingyan, Young Meng, and Bai Zhe took a carriage and went all the way to Floral Moon Tower. Manager Lin, Manager Qi, and the 2 young heroes, please come in. As soon as they got out of the carriage, Lord Tang V greeted them with a smile. He led them all the way upstairs to a private room. At the door of the room was a bald old man. Seeing this person, Young Meng's eyes narrowed slightly. This person is in the realm of 9 apertures. This is Tang Shu, the elder of the Tang family. He's in the realm of 9 apertures and has extraordinary strength. Qi Jingyan transmitted a message to Young Meng and Bai Zhe, introducing the bald old man. 9 apertures? Young Meng nodded and did not care. It was not like he had never killed a 9 apertures master before. Besides, with Brother Bai here, he could even kill an exterior master. Young Master Meng? As soon as they entered the room, Young Meng, who was at the back, had not entered completely. At this moment, a group of young men and women walked out of a private room next door. Young Master Meng, the gentleman's sword. Among them, a man and a girl saw Young Meng and shouted in surprise. Damn it! Young Meng was depressed when he heard this name. To be able to call out this name, they must be from the 3 mountains and 4 waters. So you're the gentleman's sword? You value righteousness more than money. You're a man of your word. You're a chivalrous man. We admire you. The young men and women's eyes lit up as if they had seen their idol. Well, they're fans. Even if Young Meng did not like the name Gentleman's Sword, he could only smile. Young Master Meng, I'm Tang Minghua. At this moment, a girl with bright eyes and white teeth wearing a pearl on her head bowed to Young Meng with a smile. Then, she transmitted a message to Young Meng. Young Master Meng, 5th uncle has surrendered to the Wang family. Under the orders of the Yi family, he wants to kill you to prove his allegiance. The 4 families each sent a 9 apertures master. The Yi family is preparing to kill you. Hearing this, Young Meng's heart tightened, but his face did not change. He smiled and said goodbye to the young men. I have something to do. See you next time. Stepping into the room, Young Meng transmitted a message to Qi Jingyan and Bai Zhe. Hongmen Banquet. Ha! Qi Jingyan and Bai Zhe looked at each other and sneered. In Yi City, a 9 apertures master was a top master. With Bai Zhe, the number 1 on the ranking list of young masters, a 9 apertures master was nothing. He could kill an exterior master. Chapter 808. So Chief Steward Qi's cousin is the famous gentleman's sword. As soon as little Meng entered the room, Lord Tang V greeted him with a smile. You're indeed a young hero. Come, let's toast to this gentleman's sword. Even though Lord Tang V said that he did not really care about the gentleman's sword or whatever, the famous gentleman's sword in the 3 mountains and 4 waters region was only at the 6 apertures level. How powerful could a mere 6 apertures be? Did he think everyone was like Fairy of the extinctive sword Jiang Zhui, who could sever 9 apertures with 6 apertures level. Lord Tang the Fifth sneered in his heart, but on the surface he raised his wine glass with a smile. "You flatter me, Lord Tang the Fifth." Little Meng smiled and shook his head as if he was embarrassed. However, he could only raise his glass in response to Lord Tang the Fifth's toast. At this moment, everyone was raising their glasses to this young hero. Gentleman's sword. Then, the moment he raised his glass, killing intent burst out. Boom! The bald old man, Tang Shu, who had perfected 9 apertures, took the opportunity to attack Little Meng with a ferocious look on his face. The wind from his palm surged, and a strong wind surged. The wind from his palm contained a gust of cold and scorching heat. The cold and heat intertwined and formed a spiral that whistled through the air. This was Tang Shu's unique skill, the yin and yang spiral palm. The palm contained the power of yin and yang, which was impossible to defend against. The strength of a 9 apertures expert was undoubtedly revealed. However, Tang Shu's attack was only one of many. Bang! The window shattered, and a bright saber light swept over like a waterfall. The cold blade whistled through the air, and the sharp wind seemed to tear everything in front of it apart. Boom! At the same time, the wooden wall behind Little Meng exploded with a loud bang. A pitch-black, ice-cold spear, like a poisonous dragon coming out of its cave or a prairie fire, blocked all of Meng Qi's escape routes. Tang Shu, the machete man, and the gunman, 3 9 apertures experts, surrounded Little Meng at the same time. Even though the gentleman's sword was somewhat famous, in these people's eyes, the 3 9 apertures masters would definitely be able to kill him. Little Meng was attacked, so were Qi Jingyan and Bai Zhe. Lord Tang the Fifth and Manager Lin, who were sitting next to Qi Jingyan, suddenly attacked at the same time. Kill! Lord Tang the Fifth struck out with his palms. The wind generated by his palms was like stormy waves, one after another. It was like a surging river with endless waves. Brat Qi, you shouldn't meddle. Manager Lin's expression was ferocious as he made his move as well. His right hand turned into a claw like a tiger's claw and struck at Qi Jingyan's major acupoint on his back. As for Bai Zhe, there were naturally people to deal with him. Swish! A slender and narrow sword pierced towards Bai Zhe's back. There was a smear of blood on the sword, reflecting the bright moon. It was poignant and beautiful. He was also a 9 apertures master. After returning to his natural state, Bai Zhe, who had been acting like an ordinary person, was still looked down upon. They only sent a 9 apertures master to attack. Killing intent burst forth all of a sudden. This was a well-prepared ambush. Moreover, it was a sneak attack by a 9 apertures master. If one was caught off guard, there was no way to defend against it. In the eyes of these people, Qi Jingyan and the other 2 were doomed to die. Little Meng's long sword suddenly came out of its sheath. It flashed like a cold star and instantly pointed at a point in Tang Shu's cold and hot palm power. Boom! When the sword pointed out, cold and hot intertwined. The spiral-like palm wind suddenly exploded and completely collapsed. This sword was the solitary sword, Qi-breaking style. After dispersing his internal strength and genuine Qi, Tang Shu's palm was no longer a threat. Little Meng's long sword swept out, like an angry dragon raising its head. It stabbed diagonally upward and met the bright blade light. Solitary sword, Qi-breaking style. The blade light, like a waterfall, was cut off. The sword stabbed at the key point of the flow of the force and broke the knife momentum. With the rebound force of the collision, the long sword drew an arc and slashed behind Little Meng's back. Behind Little Meng, a dark and cold long spear stabbed fiercely at his back like a poisonous snake sticking out its tongue. Clang! The sound of the spear and the sword colliding rang out. The black spear, like a poisonous snake, seemed to have been hit at its weakest point. The spear move instantly collapsed. This was the solitary sword, Qi-breaking style. At this moment, the sword light whistled and lightning flashed. Little Meng's figure floated in the air. In the blink of an eye, Little Meng had defeated 3 9 apertures masters in a row. He deserved the title of Gentleman's Sword. Well, The second part. Little Meng said he could ignore it. At the same time, Qi Jingyan, who was suddenly attacked, suddenly flashed a rose-red halo, like a light shield protecting him. Lord Tang the Fifth's palm strike and Manager Lin's tiger claw were like clay oxen disappearing into the sea. They dissipated under the influence of the red light screen. Humph! You're courting death. At this time, Qi Jingyan naturally did not care about exposing the Book of the Chaos. He blocked their attacks with the rosy afterglow swing. He clapped his right palm and used the azure snow. A layer of frost condensed and spread quickly, as if winter was coming. It froze the hibiscus soup, vinegar fish, Nuer Hong, the ground, and the table. It spread to Master Tang the Fifth and Manager Lin. In an instant, they were frozen into ice sculptures. The Book of the Chaos is really something. Liu, who was sitting on the side of the table, did not care about the small and narrow sword stabbing at his back. Instead, he praised Qi Jingyan's Book of the Chaos. When the long sword was about to pierce his back, Liu flicked his finger on the narrow sword. Bang! A powerful force rushed out, and the person who attacked from behind was sent flying, smashing the wooden wall behind him. Little Meng, don't hold back, Qi Jingyan said to Little Meng after freezing Master Tang, the Fifth, and Manager Lin. What he meant was that there was no need to keep them alive for interrogation. Just kill them. After that, Qi Jingyan jumped up and faced the saber man in front of him. He used the white cloud smoke. A cloud of smoke rose and shrouded the saber man, making him lose his five senses. Okay, Little Meng answered. His long sword vibrated with a clang. Cold stars broke through the air like lightning. Dugu sword, palm-breaking style. Xiao Chan thrust out his sword and pierced Tang Shu's throat, who had just broken the palm strike and still had not caught his breath, dying an unnatural death. Puff! Little Meng was about to deal with the gunman behind him when he suddenly heard the sound of something breaking through the air. Bai Zhe, who was still sitting at the table, flicked his finger. A wine cup whizzed up and hit the gunman's chest as fast as lightning. The wine in the cup surged, and an extremely cold qi swept out. The gunman was instantly frozen into an ice sculpture. Clang! Little Meng turned around and stabbed. The saber man, shrouded in the white cloud smoke, had already lost his five senses. There was no way he could dodge the sword. The sword pierced his heart. Clang! At this moment, a sword whistled through the air. The swordsman, who was flicked away by Liu, held a long sword glowing with purple light. The blade was light purple, and the sharp qi was almost solid. The swordsman unleashed all his genuine qi and slashed with the sword. A beam of sword qi shot out. It was purple-red and whistled through the air. It was so powerful that it tore through the sky. A precious weapon. This purple long sword was a precious weapon with the power of the exterior. Chapter 809. It's not the exterior. At most, it's half-step. Liu shook his head with a smile. With the strength of the Nine Apertures realm, he could only exert the power of the half-step exterior scenery by activating a precious weapon. It didn't mean that he could have the power of the exterior with a precious weapon. With Liu's strength, this little bit of attack couldn't even withstand a breath from him. However, with the strength of Bai Zhe, it couldn't be so strong. My sword is also a precious weapon. He reached out to pull out the glacier sword at his waist. The cold air surged as if it was going to freeze everything in the world. I see holy light. The sword rushed to the sky. The blue cold light broke through the air and went straight to the sky. The extreme cold swept up, and the whole floral moon tower was covered with a thick layer of frost. Flying snow all over the sky. Endless frost. At this moment, there was only endless cold between heaven and earth. Flowers and trees were frozen. Houses and buildings were frozen. Even the earth was frozen. Even the purplish-red sword qi had been frozen. The swordsman who wielded the purple-red long sword and chopped out a precious weapon sword qi was frozen into an ice sculpture together with his sword. That's when this icy sword qi soared into the sky. The whole East City seemed to have turned from midsummer to winter. Snowflakes fluttered all over the sky. Countless people in the city were dumbfounded. The exterior. This is the power of the exterior. Which exterior master is attacking any city? It doesn't seem like the exterior. The scope of the change is very small, and the power doesn't reach the level of the exterior. All the Walleen heroes in East City saw the change of the weather and started to talk about it. Not the exterior, but with such a cold sword chi, he must be Glacier Swordsman, #1 on the ranking list of young masters. Seeing the cold sword chi rushing to the sky and the scene of flying snow, the identity of this person was obvious. Except for Glacier Swordsman, who was #1 on the ranking list of young masters. Glacier Swordsman has come to East City. The arrestor of the Six Fan School in East City frowned when he saw the icy sword chi soaring into the sky. The Wong family of River East is competing with the Huanhua Sword sect, and Glacier Swordsman is here again. One eventful season. Damn it. Opposite the Floral Moon Brothel, the third young master of the Yi clan was sitting by the window, watching the show. Because all these changes in East City were caused by this guy. Originally, according to his plan, the two managers of the Huanhua Sword sect would be killed by the Wong family. The Wong family of River East and the Huanhua Sword sect were bound to clash. However, the moment this icy sword chi soared into the sky, the third young master of the Yi clan knew that all his plans had failed. Damn it. Glacier Swordsman, what was he doing here? Can't you just eat sand in the desert? What are you doing in the Central Plains? Third young master, Yi smashed the table in front of him. He was furious. Chi. A chuckle resounded in the room, and a beautiful woman with a seductive figure walked out, swaying gracefully. Thousand Face, Glacier Swordsman has come to East City. I'm afraid your plan can't be carried out. You better leave East City quickly. The beautiful woman smiled sweetly at third young master Yi as she reminded him. No, I won't let it go. Third young master Ye's face was ferocious. Damn Glacier Swordsman. I'm still waiting for the Wong family and the Huanhua Sword sect to clash, destroy East City, and inflict heavy losses on the four families. With this blood sacrifice, evil god can break through the bottleneck and step into the realm of the real gods. There won't be a conflict. The beautiful woman shook her head. Let's leave here and think of another way. No, I've been planning for so long. I'm not willing to leave just like this. Even if I can't sacrifice the whole city, I'm still confident about the Yi family. As long as evil god breaks through, I don't care about this body of mine. If I change my appearance, who can find me? Third young master Ye's face was full of ruthlessness, and his eyes were emitting a green flame. If you want to continue, I won't accompany you in your nonsense. The beautiful woman waved her hand. Our destruction sect is not as powerful as before since our sect master disappeared. Thousand-faced devil man, I can't handle this matter if it gets out of hand. I'll leave with Iron Hand Devil Man right away. Glacier Swordsman by Zay had come to East City. He was a guy who could even kill an exterior expert. If she dared to stir up trouble in front of such a peerless master, she would be courting death. Joy Devilman felt that she hadn't lived long enough and didn't want to court death. If you want to leave, then leave. I'll handle this matter myself. Third young master Yi snorted coldly and waved his hand, ignoring this joyful Devilman. Humph, you don't know what's good for you. Joy Devilman snorted and turned to leave. In Joy Devilman's opinion, third young master Ye's brain was damaged by evil spirit cultivation. As a member of the evil path, the most important thing was to know how to withdraw in time. Otherwise, it was the road to death. Iron Hand, let's go. Joy Devilman called out. An 8-foot-tall, muscular man walked out of the darkness. He nodded at Joy Devilman and walked out of the tavern together. Clang. As soon as they stepped out of the tavern, a sword whistled and a bone-chilling sword chi soared into the sky. The blue sword light, with extreme coldness, tore through the sky and chopped down at Joy Devilman and Iron Hand Devilman who had just stepped out of the tavern. Glacier Swordsman. Joy Devilman screamed. Her face was pale, and cold sweat broke out all over her body. Iron Hand, stop him. After yelling at Iron Hand, Joy Devilman turned around and ran away. This was Glacier Swordsman. Glacier Swordsman, who could even kill an exterior expert. Joy Devilman, with a mere 9 apertures cultivation, didn't dare to confront Glacier Swordsman. I'll let Iron Hand, this brainless guy, take the blame first. I'll run first. This response was indeed correct. Unfortunately, Glacier Swordsman was more terrifying than she had imagined. He chopped out with his sword and froze the earth. Joy Devilman, who had just run a few steps, felt cold all over, and her vision turned black. She was instantly frozen into an ice sculpture. Brother Bai, this is... Little Meng and Qi Jingyan ran out and looked at each other when they saw the scene. Brother Bai suddenly rushed out of the floral moon tower and chopped at the two. What was going on? I just sensed that the spirit of the swordsman with the precious weapon seemed to be controlled by someone. Through the sensing of his spirit, I found that the mastermind is here. Bai Zhe calmly sheathed his sword. These two should be Joy Devilman and Iron Hand Devilman from the Destruction Sect. Little Meng was stunned. Didn't I kill Joy Devilman and Iron Hand Devilman? He remembered that on the ship, Joy Devilman and Iron Hand Devilman attacked Red Cloud Sword Shan Xiaomei, and then came to provoke him. He had no choice but to kill them. But the two people in front of him were also Joy Devilman and Iron Hand Devilman. Huh. Bai Zhe shook his head with a smile. Are you sure you killed Joy Devilman and Iron Hand Devilman? That was their show. You didn't even know that you messed it up. A show. Little Meng was not stupid. Thinking of Shan Xiaomei and Wang Su's identity, he instantly understood the reason. Saving a damsel in distress was the best way to strike up a conversation. Shan Xiaomei was trying to lure a rich husband. Chapter 8:10. It's really too strong. Third young Master Yi, the thousand-faced devil man, who had stayed in the room, was shocked by the sword chi and shivered all over. Fortunately, the spirit is the foundation of my practice of evil spirit cultivation. The body is just a piece of clothing. No matter how strong Glacier Swordsman is, he can't do anything to me. Third young Master Yi calmed down and gritted his teeth. I've paid a great price for this arrangement. Although it's not complete, the blood sacrifice of the Yi family can be a great supplement for me. I've earned back my cost. Third young master, Yi turned his head to look at the street outside and saw the precious weapon Purple Decease sword in Little Meng's hand. This is what I ordered, but now I can't get it back. Damn it. Taking advantage of the chaos outside, third young master, Yi pretended to be flustered and frightened. He hurriedly left the tavern and hurried back to the Yi family. On the street, Liu watched third young master Yi hurrying into the crowd with a smile. Thousand-faced devil man, what will you do next? Ahem, young masters. At this time, a middle-aged man who looked like a constable came up to them. Young masters, I'm Huang Jiqing, the governor of 6 Fan School in East City. What happened just now? As the governor of 6 Fan School, Huang Jiqing had to bite the bullet and ask. The 3 people were very powerful. Meng Qi, a gentleman's sword, Qi Jingyan from Huanhua sect, and the even more terrifying Glacier Swordsman Bai Zhe. Huang Jiqing could not afford to offend them. It's just evil spirits. Little Meng greeted Huang Jiqing. They are Joy Devilman and Iron Hand Devilman. They are the 19 Devilmen of the Destruction Sect. Huang Jiqing's expression changed. He glanced at the 3 people and heaved a long sigh of relief. Thanks to young Master Bai's help. Otherwise, East City would have suffered from the chaos caused by demons. Although the 19 Devilmen of the Destruction Sect were not hidden, skyscraping devils, they were still very terrifying. Even if they had not reached the exterior, they were all elusive and unpredictable. Their devil skills were strange and impossible to guard against. It's okay. Liu waved his hand and ignored the governor of the 6 Fan School. He turned around and left the long street. No wonder he's ranked first on the human list. His strength is terrifying. Huang Jiqing looked at the 2 frozen human demons, the floral moon tower covered in snow, and the dead 9 apertures figures in the tower. His expression turned grave. Meng Qi, the gentleman's sword, killed 2 9 Accupore's masters. Qi Jingyin killed Tang Wu and manager Lin. Bai Zhe killed the other two. Hee. This time, the four big clans of East City will suffer heavy losses. In East City, a 9 apertures expert was already a top master. The loss of so many 9 Acupores cultivators from the 4 great families was disastrous. Huang Jiqing had also suffered quite a bit from the 4 great clans. Seeing this situation, he was somewhat gloating. However, on second thought, even if the 4 great families were wiped out, they would still have to depend on the Huanhua sword sect and the Wang family. Being the governor of the 6th fan school in the vicinity of the major sects and aristocratic families was really torturous. Huang Jiqing heaved a long sigh and walked out of the Floral Moon Tower, returning to the 6th fan school's encampment. Glacier Swordsman is here. At this time, the 4 great families of East City were a little flustered. This time, the 4 great families planned to betray the Huanhua sword sect and turn to the Wang family of River East. This was already an act of betrayal. Originally, with the Wang family as their backing, the Huanhua sword sect could not do anything to them once they were under the protection of the Wang family. But now, with the Glacier Swordsman making such a scene, everything was over. The Huanhua sword sect's forces had not been cleared out, and the Wang family's forces had not entered. Even if the Wang family wanted to help, they had to do it themselves before they could take over. It's over. It's over. What should we do now? Now, even if they wanted to go all the way and join forces to raid the Huanhua sword sect's encampment and destroy all the Huanhua sword sect's forces in East City, they could not do it, because the Glacier Swordsman. With the Glacier Swordsman around, anyone who dared to move would die. The ice sculpture outside the Floral Moon Tower had just been pulled back by the 6th fan school. If they turned to the Huanhua swords sect again, who would trust them after betraying them once? The 4 great families were a loss. In fact, it was not right to call them the 4 great families. At least, the Yi family's leader was not flustered at all. Humph! Glacier Swordsman, this is not over. 3rd young master Yi returned to the Yi family with a ferocious expression. His eyes were emitting green flames, and his entire person appeared to be green. Despite such an abnormal situation, the Yi family's leaders were not shocked at all. They were very calm, because they had already fallen under 3rd young master Ye's evil scheme, and their minds were all under his control. Joy Devilman's words are somewhat reasonable. Now, I can only sacrifice the Yi family in blood and change my skin. 3rd young master Yi gritted his teeth and waved his hand. Go, start the blood sacrifice array. At this time, Liu, who had returned to the rice shop, suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of the Yi family. So, your plan is the blood sacrifice? At this time, 2nd young Master Tang can appear. With a light flick of his sleeve, 2nd young Master Tang, who was kept in a resource vault by Liu, instantly broke through the void and was thrown into the Yi family. With Liu's help, 2nd young Master Tang had a complete virtual memory of this period of time. He knew 3rd young Master Ye's identity and plans like the back of his hand. At this time, 3rd young Master Yi was standing on the blood sacrifice array with a ferocious smile. Although the Yi family's blood sacrifice can't help me break through the realm, it's not without some benefits. With this experience, my chances of breaking through will be even greater. Opening his arms, 3rd young Master Yi narrowed his eyes as if he could see the souls screaming in fear and boiling blood. The taste of the blood sacrifice is really fascinating. Licking his lips, 3rd young Master Yi had an intoxicated expression. Thousand-faced devil man die. A loud shout interrupted 3rd young Master Ye's fantasy. Looking up and seeing the figure in front of him, 3rd young Master Yi jumped up in shock. 2nd young Master Tang? You're not dead yet? How can you not be dead? The unrelenting tower would actually cheat when doing business? They clearly said that they had killed him, but he was still alive and well. Was the killer organization not honest anymore? How could he continue to play? Boom! A roar of raging tides sounded, interrupting 3rd young Master Ye's resentment against the unrelenting tower. 2nd young Master Tang stepped forward, waved his long saber, and chopped down. When the saber was chopped out, the roar of raging tides sounded. The raging tides were turbulent, the waves were towering, and the rolling river was endless. It was as if a raging river had appeared in front of him. As the raging river surged, a saber radiance rose to the sky, cutting off the huge waves and cutting off the river. It was as if the endless river had been sliced into two by the saber. The wave-viewing invitation, the river-splitting saber. Third young Master Yi was shocked. Second young Master Tang, when did he have such strength? How can he release the exterior saber intent? He already has the strength of 9 apertures. His saber skills are extraordinary, and he can release the exterior saber intent. How can he say that he is ignorant? How can he say that his kung fu has not reached 6 apertures? Unrelenting Tower. How do you do business? Chapter 811. This is the saber radiance shot up like a raging tide in a surging river. Now was the time when the glacier swordsman had stirred up panic, and the atmosphere in East City was tense. Naturally, the saber attack shocked countless people. They looked up and saw the saber radiance shooting up into the sky. It was as if the saber radiance had split the surging tide and cut off the river. Countless people were horrified. The wave-viewing invitation, the river-splitting saber. Which member of the Tang family did this? Is there anyone in the Tang family who has practiced the river-splitting saber to this extent? That direction, the Yi family? Is there a conflict between the Tang family and the Yi family? What's going on? At this moment, people from the other 3 families rushed out of their houses and rushed toward the Yi family. What's going on? Huang Jiqing, the governor of the 6th Fan School in East City, kicked away the chair in front of him and rushed out of the 6th Fan School's encampment. The Tang family and the Yi family are fighting? What's going on? As the only steward of the Huanhua Sword sect in East City, he naturally had to take care of this. After all, nominally, the 4 families were still under the jurisdiction of the Huanhua sect. Let's go and have a look. Little Meng was fond of excitement, so he would not miss the opportunity to watch the fun. I'll go too. If Liu wanted to go, it was naturally to watch the show. It's great that Brother Bai can go. Qi Jingyan nodded happily. The 4 families in East City all had precious weapons. The 4 families had just joined hands to attack the steward of the Huanhua Sword sect. It was hard to say whether the 4 families would join hands to attack them with precious weapons. With Bai Zhe as a shield, precious weapons were nothing to be afraid of. After a while, people from all walks of life rushed to the Yi family. This is seeing the faint blood-red light in the Yi family's courtyard and the howling of the wronged souls. Everyone's expression changed greatly. Damn it, it's evil spirit cultivation. As the governor of the 6th Fan School, Huang Jiqing was no stranger to it. Seeing the array that enveloped the entire Yi residence, how could they not know what was going on? Everyone, this evil demon wants to sacrifice the Yi clan. Please let go of your prejudices and work together to slay this demon. Huang Jiqing shouted at the people gathered from all directions. Then, he kicked open the door of the Yi residence and led a few of his subordinates into the courtyard of the Yi residence. In fact, Huang Jiqing was cursing in his heart. I've had enough. All these years, he had been bullied by the 4 great clans and had suffered a lot. Now that another evil demon blood sacrifice had appeared, they had no choice but to rush to the front. Do you think it's easy for me to get such a small salary? The demonic blood sacrifice must be eradicated. Otherwise, it will be a great disaster. Fortunately, the remaining people on his side all knew the seriousness of the matter. There was no infighting, dragging him down, or any other situation. One by one, they led their men and charged into the Yi family's courtyard. Is that Tang? Second young Master Tang? Rushing into the yard, everyone suddenly realized that the figure who was fighting with the evil spirit and seemed to have the upper hand was actually the second young Master Tang, who had been assassinated by the unrelenting tower and whose fate was unknown. Second brother, Tang Mingzhu shouted excitedly when she saw the figure wielding the saber. My second brother is also so powerful. My second brother is no worse than those young heroes. Second young master has practiced his saber technique to such a level? His strength is already at 9 apertures? Great. That's great. Tang Run, old Master Tang's personal attendant, who was at 9 apertures, was trembling with excitement as he held the Tang family's precious weapon, Guanlan saber. Old Master, you don't have to worry. Second young Master, he's very capable. He's too capable. Damn it, this guy is still alive? How did Master Yi do his job? Master Tang the Seventh, who was in cahoots with Master Yi, was furious when he saw second young Master Tang. Damn it, that guy is still alive? How could I have misjudged him? Little Ming suddenly felt guilty. He patted his chest and said, It's okay, it's okay. I haven't used second young Master Tang's identity. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing. Everyone, take action quickly. Master Yi is the Thousand Faces Devil Man of the Destruction Sect. He controlled the Yi family with evil sorcery and framed you. He wanted to cause a fight between the Huanhua Sword sect and the Wang family so as to sacrifice Zhenyi City. You've all been fooled by him. At this time, second young Master Tang told the truth while waving his saber. Damn it, Thousand Faces Devil Man. Evil spirit cultivation. Thinking of a maidservant sent by Master Yi, the leaders of the 3 families suddenly changed their faces. Fortunately, they found it early. Otherwise, they would end up like the Yi family. Their divine souls were taken away by the evil spirit and turned into puppets. They were walking corpses and would end up being sacrificed. Second young Master, take the saber. Tang Run rushed forward and threw the Guanlan saber in his hand to second young Master Tang. Everyone, take action quickly. Huang Jiqing shouted as he pulled out his saber and rushed forward. It turns out that this guy is behind this. Little Meng had met the ghastly green guy in front of him in the Devil Tomb reincarnation mission. He didn't expect this guy to change his appearance and become Master Yi. Kill. Everyone knew the severity of the situation and rushed forward to attack. Roaring Flame Spear. Cloud-turning saber. Guanlan saber. 3 precious weapons were activated at the same time. The power of half-step exterior scenery burst out violently. At the same time, a pair of boxing gloves appeared in Huang Jiqing's hands, bursting with dense electric light. I have a precious weapon as well. Thunder Fist. Between the electric light, Huang Jiqing fiercely punched down. At the same time, Little Meng and Qi Jingyan pulled out their swords at the same time. The dazzling sword light tore through the sky and slashed at Master Yi. Even an exterior expert would have to take this round of attack seriously. Although Master Yi was strange, he was only in the 9 apertures realm. How could he withstand it? Boom! With a violent boom, Yi San's ghost-like jade-green figure was instantly blasted into smithereens. Do you think you can kill me like this? Gods are immortal and indestructible. Above Yi San's body, which had been pulverized into powder, a dark green light shone and formed a human figure in midair. Wait for me. I'll be back. Yi City will be flooded with blood. After saying this, Master Yi turned around and ran away. In his current state of divine soul, he could not stay in the outside world for long. He had to change his body quickly. Master Yi had countless furnaces. Changing a body was like changing clothes. Losing a body was not a problem at all. However, immortal? I don't believe it. Bai Zhe sneered and unsheathed his long sword. Clang! A sword roar rose into the sky. The blue sword light revealed a coldness that could freeze everything. With a slash, everything was frozen. That blustering, bluish-green spiritual body was frozen and annihilated by this sword strike. The evil spirit cultivated by evil spirit cultivation is gone just like that. Everyone was horrified. Wasn't it said that evil spirits were hard to kill? Wasn't it said that evil spirits would exist forever as long as the furnaces were not destroyed? How could the evil spirit be killed with one slash? It's hard for evil spirits to enter the saint realm. This way of cultivating the divine soul is simply a crooked and evil way. Do you think you can be immortal? With a sneer, he sheathed his sword. The young man in the white robe had a peerless grace, like an immortal. No wonder he ranked first on the ranking list of young masters. Everyone was amazed. Chapter 8:12. The chaos in his city was thus quelled. With the thousand-faced devil man as the scapegoat, the big families in East City quickly returned to the Huanhua sword sect. Everyone got along harmoniously. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Little Meng and the others. Qi Jingyan was demoted and sent to Yi City to take charge. Bai Zhe, the glacier swordsman, had already left East City for Divine Capital, the capital of Dajin. Gentleman's Sword, Meng Qi got rid of this disguise and changed to his main identity, Thunderblade Furious Monk Meng Qi. Then, he joined the Six Fan School. In order to wash away his image of being 8 feet tall and 8 feet wide, he decided to join the Six Fan School and become a secret agent. He removed the words lay and monk and gave himself the name Crazy Blade. Then he showed his face a few times and fought a few rounds with the so-called Wuling Masters. The onlookers directly called him Killing Blade. F***CK. Why was it so difficult to find a suitable nickname? Little Meng was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. The Samsara task begins. This is a death mission. It is extremely dangerous. Please be prepared. Mission background. 800 years after the journey to the west, demons wreaked havoc in the human world. Mission objective: survive for 7 days. While Little Meng was feeling depressed, another Samsara task began. In a trance, Little Meng disappeared from the small courtyard in Yi City and arrived at Samsara Square in an instant. Killing Blade, 19th on the ranking list of young masters. Not bad. Jiang Jue looked at Little Meng, who had appeared in the Samsara Square, with a smile and joked. Little Meng, your strength is improving very fast. You're about to open 7 apertures, right? Zhang Yuanshan and Fu Jinjin kissed and walked together again. Since Zhang Yuanshan had obtained the Yin and Yang sword from the ancestral master's importation, he had become the treasurer of the Zhenwu sect. Although the Song family hoped to unite with the Zhang family through marriage, Zhang Yuanshan was unwilling to do so. I'm also at 6 apertures. Qi Jingyan reported his strength with a smile. I have 7 apertures. Zhenjin has 4 apertures. The death mission was about to begin, so it was necessary for them to know each other's strength. Zhang Yuanshan also reported his and Fu Jinjin's strength. I've opened 8 apertures. Jiang Jiwei flicked her sword and smiled. In addition to these old teammates, there were 3 new teammates. One of them was the beautiful girl, Ruan Yushu. He was born in the Ruan clan of Langya, one of the 14 aristocratic families in the world. He was born with an innate talent for the zither and a cultivation of 6 apertures. There were 2 other men. One of them was Luo Xingyi, a 9 apertures cultivator who was good at fist techniques. One of them was called Gu Huan. He was a 4 apertures cultivator and was good at divination. The death mission is extremely difficult and unusual. We need to be fully prepared. Little Meng raised the purple decease sword in his hand and said, I've obtained a precious weapon. My attack power is enough for now. This is the demon world, so we need to exchange for some treasures that can restrain demons. Healing medicine can't be ignored either. Everyone discussed and soon finished their preparations. Samsara mission begins. After a quarter of an hour, the cold voice of the dominator of Samsara in 6 realms rang out. Heaven and earth changed, and everyone arrived at another world in an instant. It was a Buddhist temple. However, this temple was very dilapidated. The floor tiles were broken, the walls were cracked, the roof had collapsed, and there were weeds everywhere. The Buddha statue in the temple hall had already collapsed. The great Buddha fell to the ground and broke into several pieces. Its head rolled to the ground. When Little Meng and the others appeared in the temple hall, they happened to be facing the Buddha head. The rolling Buddha head had a benevolent smile on its face. Seeing this scene, everyone inexplicably felt a chill run down their spines. Even the statue of Buddha has been shattered. Demons are indeed wreaking havoc in the human world. In this world where demons, immortals, and Buddhas existed, who would be so bold as to break the Buddha statue? Aren't you afraid that the Buddha will kill you with a breath? Now, Even the statue of Buddha had been shattered. It was obvious how rampant the demons in this world were. I have some knowledge of divination. I can do some divination. Guhuayan took out a few copper coins. He closed his eyes and waved his hand, scattering the coins. Ding! The sound of the coins rolling on the ground gradually disappeared. Guhuayan focused his eyes, and his expression changed drastically. This place is very dangerous. The death mission is indeed dangerous. Hearing the result of Guhuayan's divination, everyone sighed. They were not surprised. Where's the auspicious place? Little Meng asked Guhuayan. This world was very strange to everyone. Everyone was in the dark. They did not know where they were and where the danger came from. The way of divination was also a magical secret method. It was suitable to use at this time. Let me calculate again. Guhuayan picked up the copper coins and threw them several times. His expression became more and more solemn. There's a great omen in every direction. We seem to be in a dangerous place. Okay, everyone sighed. It was indeed a death mission. What is that? While everyone was talking, Jiang Zhui suddenly found that under the thick dust on the ground, there seemed to be a trace of golden light. She stepped forward and pulled out her sword to sweep away the dust. A huge bronze plaque appeared in front of everyone. The plaque was also covered with a thick layer of dirt. The exposed part had a Sanskrit word. Little Meng, who was born a monk, naturally knew Sanskrit. The word that was revealed was the word temple. This should be a plaque of a temple. Knowing what temple this is will help us understand where we are now. Little Meng stepped forward, pulled out his long knife, and scraped off the dirt on the plaque bit by bit. To Little Meng's surprise, the long saber in his hand, which was at the refined weapon level, did not leave a single scratch on the plaque when it scraped against it. This thing, is it a treasure? Little Meng was suspicious. Little Meng scraped off the dirt bit by bit, and two more words appeared. Thunder. Thunder Temple. Little Meng's expression changed. In the world of Journey to the West, only the Big Thunder Temple and Small Thunder Temple were related to the Thunder Temple. Don't worry about the Big Thunder Temple. That was the place of Buddha. This place could not be the Big Thunder Temple. If it was the Small Thunder Temple, then it would be troublesome. In Journey to the West, the Small Thunder Temple's yellow wind monster could easily kill all of us with just a breath. Little Meng continued to scrape with a serious expression. The words appeared little by little. Phew! Fortunately, it's not small. It's not Small Thunder Temple or Yellow Wind Monster. I don't have to worry about being killed instantly. Little Meng heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the word appear. Then, he stared at the word, and his hands began to tremble. It was the word big. Connected together, it was Big Thunder Temple. F*CK. This is the Big Thunder Temple? Even Buddha's lair has become like this? Even if demons wreaked havoc in the human world, there was no need to be so ruthless, right? Even Buddha's lair has been destroyed by demons? Then, if we come here, do we have a chance of survival? Perhaps an eminent monk invited the plaque of the Big Thunder Temple from Mount Numinous in order to quell the chaos caused by demons? But even Buddha's plaque could not suppress these demons that wreaked havoc in the human world. This death mission would be very difficult. Chapter 8:13. Has Little Meng started his first death mission? Bai Zhe, who was on a boat going down the river to Shundu, since that Little Meng and the rest had entered the world of samsara to face their first death mission. According to the original trajectory, this death mission would have resulted in a lot of casualties. Only Little Meng, Jiang Zhiwei, Qi Jingyan, and Ruan Yushu were left alive. Everyone else is dead. Liu looked up at the sky. His gaze seemed to pierce through time and space and saw the people in the world of Journey to the West. Young man, I will help you this time. With a thought, Gu Changqing, who was practicing swordsmanship in a house in Shindu, was instantly thrown into the world of Journey to the West by Liu. In the world of Six Paths of Samsara, a few half-dead old monsters got together and created a pond to raise fish. Between them, they were also pulling each other back in the dark. Sure enough, this is how villains are like. The world of six paths of samsara was created by the devil Buddha Ananda, immortal Luya, the demonic monarch, the seven-kill priest, and the ancestor of water. The spirited mountain in the world of Journey to the West is suppressing the devil Buddha Ananda. Little Meng is one of Ananda's fish. Back then, Ananda practiced the Buddha's palm in reverse and turned Buddha into a demon. He became the devil Buddha and a top master of the Nirvana realm. He caused chaos and almost destroyed the ancient times. The Buddha took action and suppressed Ananda in the spirited mountain. However, Ananda was already prepared. He had already set up Little Meng as a fish and was only waiting to raise this fish so that it could escape. Little Meng was Ananda's reflected self, or rather, his reincarnation. However, Ananda's background was not simple. He was not just the devil Buddha. Little Meng has been targeted by many people. Ananda, the three pure ones, the Queen Mother of the West, the demonic saint, Jinwu, Erlang Shun, and so on. It was like a cake that everyone wanted to bite. In the holy mountain of the Journey to the West, the fisherman of Little Meng's fish, Ananda, is waiting in the depths of the holy mountain. Liu also found it funny. He wondered which guy in the dominator of samsara, in 6 realms, had sent Little Meng here in order to make trouble for Ananda. Forget it, I don't have to do anything for the time being. I don't want to expose myself to those Nirvana realm people who have jumped out of the river of time and hid in the chaos. Once those fellows discovered that a person with such terrifying strength like Liu had appeared in their pond, those fellows would definitely be scared out of their wits. Let's not mess up the rhythm. Let's play slowly. Liu chuckled and turned to look at the world of Journey to the West. Gu Changqing is still in danger in the world of Journey to the West. After all, he will be exposed to Ananda when he goes deep into the spirited mountain. Ananda was in charge of the seal of samsara. This was the reincarnation of Ho Tuesday. She had used her own body to create a supreme treasure. The so-called reincarnation space was created by using supreme treasures like the seal of samsara and the list of deification, together with a few mighty people's joint casting spells. Ananda was one of the dominators of samsara. Fortunately, when I hacked the reincarnation space, I gave Gu Changqing a fake identity as a samsara traveler. With Ananda's current strength, he definitely won't be able to see through it. Liu was still very confident about this. With Liu's strength and the ability of the system, if he couldn't even fool Ananda who was suppressed and couldn't use much of his strength, then there was no point in playing. As long as Ananda doesn't act recklessly, Gu Changqing should be able to handle it. Just in case, I'd better give him a life-saving item. With a flick of his finger, Liu sent a talisman to Gu Changqing. Journey to the West. When Little Meng and the others were shocked by the plaque of Big Lane Temple, they suddenly heard the howling of the wind outside. They looked up and saw the demon aura outside. A gust of demon wind swept up, followed by countless demon aura behind it. It was like a dark cloud, rushing toward the temple with the howling of the wind. Riding the wind? Seeing this, everyone's expression changed. Being able to ride the wind meant that it was at least a half-step exterior scenery monster. Get ready for battle. Since demons were causing havoc in the human world, these monsters definitely weren't here to chat with you. After all, monsters had a hobby, and that was eating humans. Third great king, it's here. Human breath. There's someone inside. Quick, catch them. Don't let them escape. Steam them with water this time. They're tender and smooth. Maybe they're those old bones. They have to be fried to taste good. The black wind mixed with the demon aura enveloped the entire temple. One by one, strange humanoid creatures rushed into the temple with strange cries. They were monsters that hadn't finished their transformation. Some had wolf tails, some had dog heads, some had horns, some had scales, some had wings, and so on. These monsters held steel forks and long spears as they rushed in with strange cries. Kill! The monsters were attacking, and they were all shouting that they should be fried and steamed. If they didn't fight, they would be fried and steamed. Little Meng Chi leaped up and swung his saber down. His sword moved as fast as lightning as he swung both his saber and sword. chopping off several heads in a row. There were sheep, wolves, tigers, and rabbits. The others also attacked. For a moment, swords and sabers flew and blood flowed like a river. For a moment, the monsters that rushed and were all gone. "Little ones, get out of my way." The black wind whistled in the air as a wolf monster rushed down with a roar. This monster was covered in black hair and had a wolf's mouth and a human's face. It held 2 golden hammers in its hands. With the momentum of pouncing down, it smashed down like a mountain. Boom! There was a sudden explosion. It seemed that even the void was smashed by the hammers. It's at least a half-step exterior scenery monster. Little Meng knew that except for him, no one else could resist this monster. He took a deep breath and ran the 8, 9 mysteries with all his strength. His black clothes were stretched, and his muscles seemed to be bulging. Purple Deceased Sword killed the monster. The precious weapon, Purple Deceased Sword, slashed out fiercely. A purple-red sword chi tore through the sky and met the wolf monster with the giant hammers. Boom! The sword chi and the giant hammers collided fiercely with a loud noise. A large part of the dilapidated temple collapsed. Ow! The wolf demon howled in pain. The sword chi of the purple deceased sword had ruthlessly cut open many wounds on its body. Stinky demon blood gushed out from the wounds. Even so, it was only a flesh wound. Clang! At this moment, Ruan Yushu held the guqin horizontally with her left hand and suddenly plucked her right finger. The sound of the guqin burst out. The sound condensed and went straight into the wolf monster's soul. Its body could not help but tremble and stagnate. Ruan Yushu took a step back, and one of the strings of the guqin broke. Anata's sword, a dazzling sword light lit up. It was decisive. The Anata sword would not return until it had won. It seemed to have penetrated time and space. As soon as the sword light rushed up, it instantly stabbed the wolf monster between its eyebrows. Ow! After all, the wolf monster was at half-step exterior scenery. It sensed the danger and shouted loudly. It spat out a bead in front of its body. Boom! The monster core was broken. The wolf monster spat out blood. A deep scratch appeared between its eyebrows. It was so deep that its bones could be seen. Unfortunately, the sword did not pierce through its head. Clang! A sword light soared into the sky. It was like the flow of yin and yang, the cycle of life and death, and the alternation of light and darkness, yin and yang sword. Zhang Yuanshan stabbed with his sword. The sword chi rushed to the sky. Puff! Blood splashed. The wolf monster was beheaded by the sword. We finally killed it. Everyone heaved a long sigh of relief. It was a half-step exterior scenery attack from the beginning. They had almost used all their trump cards to kill this monster. The death task was really difficult. Third brother. Who dares to kill my third brother? A furious roar rang out, and a huge lion that was over 10 zhang long, as if it had 9 heads, charged over with a furious roar. Another more ferocious one. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. How could they survive? Chapter 814. Roar. An earth-shattering roar was heard, and a huge sound wave swept out like a hurricane. For a moment, the sky darkened and sand and pebbles flew everywhere. Lion's roar. This was the real lion's roar. This lion demon was a 9-headed lion. Its ancestor, the 9-headed Yuan sage, was the mount of Tai Junren. With such a background, although the lion demon's strength was only at the half-step exterior scenery level, its divine sense was more powerful than that of the wolf demon. It's actually a descendant of a 9-headed Yuan sage. Upon seeing the 9-headed lion and recalling that this was the world of journey to the west, Little Meng immediately knew the origin of this lion. Such an earth-shattering divine power was really terrifying. Everyone lay on the ground, stabbed their weapons into the ground, and used techniques such as the 1,000-pound fall to stabilize their bodies. This was why they were not blown away by the roar. However, the mighty sound wave shook their internal organs and made them bleed from their orifices. How dare you kill my third brother? All of you must die. The lion's roar was only the prelude. One of the heads of the nine-headed lion was the largest. On this head, there were 8 smaller lion heads. At this moment, the huge head in the middle opened its mouth, which was full of fangs like a huge, bloody black hole. Suck! After the lion's roar, the nine-headed lion opened its mouth and took a deep breath. A huge suction force was generated and pulled everyone off the ground. If it were not for the weapons stuck in the ground, they would have been sucked into the lion's mouth. Little Meng's 8-9 mystic arts was not at the level of the great sage. If he fell into the lion's mouth, he would not be able to make the demon beg for mercy. The purple deceased sword had been activated once, and he did not have enough genuine chi to activate it again. The only outcome would be to be digested by the lion and become a pile of lion poop. Damn it! Everyone hung on to the weapons stuck in the ground, but they would not be able to hold on for long under this endless suction force. Fu Jinjin and Gu Huan, who were the weakest, were only at the 4 apertures level. They could not hold on any longer. Death Task was indeed worthy of being called a death task. They had only been here for a few minutes, and they were already facing the crisis of being wiped out. Evildoer, how dare you act so viciously? At this moment, an angry roar sounded. A beam of sword light shot up into the sky, grand and honorable, vast and abundant, like the sun rising from the east. The brilliant sword light was like the scorching sun in the sky, illuminating the heaven and earth. Righteous chi exists in heaven and earth, and the chaos gives rise to manifold. Below are rivers and mountains, and above are the sun and stars. Blood splattered and bones were broken. The nine-headed lion did not survive this round of big moves. Bang! It fell to the ground with purple lightning all over its body. The nine-headed lion wailed and kept rolling, crushing the floor tiles. Then its body twitched and it died. Phew! We finally killed it. Everyone leaned on their weapons and breathed heavily. They were sweating and their limbs were weak. Everyone's cultivation was still relatively weak. Gu Changqing, the strongest, had just opened 9 apertures. Jiang Jiwei had only opened 8 apertures. In this realm, they had used up too much energy after triggering the gist of trueness of the exterior twice. Now their limbs were weak and they were sweating all over. This place is extremely dangerous. We can't stay here for long. Go why? In through the copper coin again and got the same ominous sign. You don't need to calculate. We know that this place is extremely dangerous. They had only been here for a few minutes, and they had already encountered 2 half-step exterior scenery monsters. If this was not dangerous, what was? They swallowed an elixir and recovered some of their primordial chi. Everyone collected their trophies first. As a samsara traveler, it was almost instinctive for him to plunder the spoils of war. The wolf demon's pair of big hammers and the nine-headed lion's huge stick were not ordinary objects. Even if they were not precious weapons, they were top refined weapons. But they were too heavy. The pair of big hammers weighed more than 100 kilograms each. The huge stick was even heavier. It was almost 250 kilograms. It was really inconvenient to carry such heavy things. We can put them in here. She took out a jade-like crystal ring and waved her hand. An invisible wave swept over, and the hammers and the huge stick were instantly stored in the ring. 1,000-mile house was the epitome of a bag, storing Mount Sumeru in a mustard seed. This was a storage ring. Rich. She was the legitimate daughter of the Ruan family of Langia, one of the 14 aristocratic families in the world. How could she not be rich? Do you want the bodies of these 2 monsters? Gu Changqing pointed at the bodies of the wolf demon and the nine-headed lion and asked everyone. No. Little Meng shook his head and looked at Gu Changqing in confusion. Brother Gu, why do you want them? To eat meat? Oh, I once obtained a method of refining elixirs using monsters as materials. I want to try it. Gu Changqing smiled at everyone. If you don't want them, I'll take them. With a wave of his hand, the 2 monsters that were more than 100 feet long were taken away by Gu Changqing. Rich, So Brother Gu is the real rich. The space in a storage ring could be big or small. A storage ring with a radius of 10 feet was already a great treasure. How precious would a storage ring that could take a 100 feet beast be? Chapter 8:15. We've just arrived here, and there's already a monster attack. Little Meng looked around and frowned. I don't believe that there's nothing wrong with this place. Let's look around and see if there's a small demon that's still alive. Let's find out the reason. If they couldn't find out the reason, no matter where they went, they wouldn't be at peace. Everyone started to look for small demons that were still alive. After a while, they found a small demon that was still alive. What are you doing here? They started to interrogate the small demon. Just now, there was a huge beam of light that shot into the sky. We could see it from afar. The two kings said that the opportunity had arrived and asked us to look for this temple. What opportunity? Everyone looked at each other. How could there be light? Could it be that the dominator of Samsara, in 6 realms, made a commotion to lure the demons here? The opportunity to find the whereabouts of the great sages. The great sages? Little Meng's heart skipped a beat. He hoped that there were more great sages like the great sages of heaven and ocean cover. Otherwise, there would be no way to survive. As for the great sage, heaven's equal, Little Meng didn't even dare to think about it. Moreover, the Monkey King was a demon. He would die if he encountered him. There was no need to think about anything else. Back then, the Gautama Buddha suddenly died. The demonic sage led the great sages to attack Spirited Mountain. Because the great sage returned to the demon race, they successfully attacked Spirited Mountain. However, only the demonic divine empress managed to come out. When the opportunity for the Tao arrived, the great sages were able to leave. Not long after, the demonic divine empress passed away. She used her own true fire to refine her remains into a black golden spear with phoenix wings. Little Meng was stunned by the first half of the story. It was one thing for the great sage to attack Spirited Mountain. With a monkey's temper, what wouldn't he do? However, the Gautama Buddha suddenly died. What kind of godly development was this? How could someone like the Gautama Buddha die? In the second half, Jiang Jiwei and the rest felt that this legend was somewhat familiar. It was exactly the same as the legend of the demonic sage in the main world. Is the demonic sage the first phoenix after the creation of the world? Zhang Yuanshan asked with a serious expression. Of course, the little demon asked proudly. Everyone was surprised and doubtful. Little Meng's heart skipped a beat as he remembered the sentence in the secret passage at the back of the Shaolin Temple. Those who are heartless and fickle will be killed. He asked the little demon, have you heard of Ananda? Ananda? The demon saint's last order states that all demons shall kill anyone who practices the Ananda, oath-breaking bladesmanship. The small demon shouted passionately. What the hell? What kind of messy journey to the west is this? I've practiced Ananda, oath-breaking blade before. In this world, wouldn't that make him the common enemy of all demons? Little Meng was confused and cursed Ananda in his heart. Does the heavenly courts not care about the demon sage attacking the spiritual mountain? He recalled that when the monkey wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace, the Tathagata Buddha helped to suppress the monkey. Now that the demons are attacking Mount Numinous, the heavenly courts are not going to help. I heard that the Devil Master attacked the heavenly court. It said that the heavenly court is gone. Everyone fell silent again. The demons had invaded Mount Numinous, so it was not strange that the heavenly courts were gone. But what about Taishang Laojun? Where is the heavenly primogenitor? Where is the prime of Tongtian? Where is Amitba? Where is Kundi? Are they not going to do anything? Little Meng shook his head. These existences were too unfathomable. He could not guess what was going on in their minds at all. The wolf demon is the third king. Who is the lion? How many kings do you have? Gu Chanqing asked. Right now, they were in conflict with this group of demons. They had to figure out the enemy's strength before making plans. The Yellow Lion King is the second king. My great king is even more extraordinary. He was the great demon who fought with the great sage. heaven's equal for 800 rounds 800 years ago. The small demon's eyes lit up when he mentioned the great king. He was extremely proud. He fought with the great sage, heaven's equal for 800 rounds? Damn, he can't be that fierce, right? Could we afford to offend a demon who could fight with a monkey for 800 rounds? We've met the real Demon King. Everyone's faces turned pale, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Especially Little Meng. He knew how terrifying the monkey was. The death task was that scary? We're only in the Enlightenment realm. We're going to fight with a Demon King who's at least a Dharmakaya. How are we supposed to live? Who is your great king? They'd already killed 2 of his brothers. There was no way to settle this peacefully. No matter how powerful the enemy was, they had to figure out who the enemy was first. My great king is called the King of Emerald Waves. He used to be called Murky. The little demon proudly raised his head and revealed a resounding name. Buffed, Little Meng spat saliva all over the small demon's face. Damn, it's this guy. Who's Murky? He's the main character of the Great King sent me to patrol the mountains. What was the extent of this guy's strength? Forget about fighting with the great sage for 800 rounds. The monkey could kill him countless times with a single breath. He's bragging to this extent. I'm scared to death. However, this was something that happened 800 years ago. Murky had lived for 800 years. He didn't become the boss of the wolf demon and the 9-headed lion by bragging, right? Who's more powerful among your great king, second king, and third king? He had to get to the bottom of this. They couldn't stay at the level of the great king sent me to patrol the mountains. Of course, it's the great king. The small demon shouted with reverence. Second king and third king had to join forces to fight it to a draw. No wonder it's the master who fought with great sage for 800 rounds. My great king is the most powerful within 800 miles. That's good. Hearing the small demon's description, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Murky was able to fight 2 half-step exterior scenery monsters to a draw. Murky was at most a beginner of the exterior. But even a beginner of the exterior was not something they could deal with. Murky was invincible within 800 miles. How could he be so powerful? Thinking of Murky and Journey to the West, Little Meng sighed. It was true that when the tiger was absent, the monkey became king. Where's your great king now? It was necessary to know the enemy's whereabouts. Little Meng hurriedly asked. My great king went to Emerald Lake to visit relatives and hasn't returned yet. But the light from before was very conspicuous. It should have seen it, the small demon answered honestly. That's good. We don't have to worry about running into Murky for now. Little Meng heaved a sigh of relief and waved his sword to send the small demon on its way. He turned to look at the others. Since a light fell from the sky when we arrived, it must have exposed our whereabouts. We can't stay here for long. Let's leave quickly. Okay. The small demon's information made everyone understand the seriousness of the situation. They hurriedly got up and left. The plaque of the Tempest Temple is a Buddha's item after all. It should be somewhat magical. Maybe it'll be of some help to us. Gu Changqing saw the plaque of the Tempest Temple on the ground and said to the others. He waved his hand and put the plaque away. That's good. After putting it away in the storage ring, even if the plaque could attract monsters, it shouldn't reveal any aura. Everyone hurriedly left the temple and stepped into the vast, unknown world. Chapter 8:16. Boom, boom, boom. When they stepped out of the temple, they saw demon aura rising into the sky. Demon wind howled and dark clouds rolled. Countless monsters rushed to the temple from all directions. What's the commotion? When everyone saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. There were at least 6 half-step exterior scenery monsters. They rode on demon wind and brought countless small monsters to rush over from all directions. It must have been the so-called pillar of light that soared into the sky that attracted the demons. Everyone's expression was solemn. Not to mention the 6 half-step exterior scenery monsters. Even the thousands of small monsters were enough to kill them. Was the death task so terrifying? Run. In such a situation, Staying near the temple was equivalent to courting death. They jumped up and rushed out of the temple, plunging into the vast mountains. I exchanged for some breath-holding pills. Demons have sharp noses. Don't let them smell us. Gu Changqing took out a bottle of pills and swallowed one. Then he handed it to the others. Brother Gu, you're so thoughtful. They took the pills and admired Gu Changqing even more. To be so thorough and make such preparations in advance, it was truly amazing. One had to know that among the monsters, wolves, dogs, and other monsters all had very sensitive noses. If they smelled them, they would not be able to escape. Huh? Gu Changqing smiled, but did not answer, because he now knew that his master of samsara was different from the others. They all had to enter the samsara space to exchange for the items. But Gu Changqing could exchange at any time. As long as he had karma points, he could exchange for anything he wanted at any time. Gu Changqing had just exchanged for the breath-holding pill. Let's find a cave to hide in. The breath-holding pill could only eliminate everyone's breath. If they were exposed to the monsters, they would still be killed. Let me do a divination. A few copper coins appeared in Gu Huai's hand. He sprinkled them and did a divination. To the east, Gu Huai, and reached out and pointed to the east. That direction was where Gu Changqing was standing. Go! At this time, tens of thousands of demons had gathered, and no direction was safe. The so-called good or bad luck was just a psychological comfort. Everyone sped along, passing through mountains and ridges as they rushed towards the east. The east is indeed auspicious. After running for a while, they did not encounter any wild demons. Furthermore, they discovered a cave that was very suitable for hiding. After hiding in the cave, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. It would be great if I could hide like this for 7 days. Luo Xingyi heaved a long sigh and found a place to sit down. He sat down cross-legged to cultivate his qi and recover his full strength as soon as possible. There's no such thing. If a death mission could be avoided so easily, it wouldn't be a death mission anymore. Everyone stopped talking and seized the time to meditate and train their qi. In the previous 2 outbursts, the main forces who had made the first move had sustained severe injuries. If they didn't recover quickly, they wouldn't be able to deal with the upcoming battle. The night passed in silence. That night, several powerful demonic auras swept across the sky. Fortunately, their target was the temple and none of them landed. This allowed everyone to pass the first day peacefully. The next morning, a ray of sunlight shone into the cave. After a night of meditation, everyone had recovered their full strength. With their strength recovered, they also gained some confidence. They cautiously walked out of the cave and looked around. Everyone's faces were pale. It's a carpet search? Looking around, he saw that the ground around him was filled with countless small demons. Tens of thousands of lesser beasts joined together to sweep through the area. Not even a corner was spared. Seeing this, everyone's faces turned pale. Sure enough, it's impossible to avoid a death mission under such a carpet search, unless everyone reached the advanced level of 8-9 mysteries and turned into stone. There was no way to avoid it. But with the advanced level of 8-9 mysteries, there was no need to hide. What should we do? It was a dead end in front of them. If they ran out, they would have to face countless demons and 6 half-step exterior scenery kings. Once they were exposed, they would be courting death. If they didn't run, they would be found by the demons sooner or later. If they stayed here, they would be waiting for death. Should they be courting death or waiting for death? Can we negotiate? Gu Huai and looked at the demons that covered the mountains outside, and his body trembled. Negotiate? They'll discuss with you first whether to fry or steam. Little Meng rolled his eyes, tightened his belt, and picked up his long saber. There's a chance of survival if we break out. If we stay here, we'll die. Wait. Negotiation is not impossible. Zhang Yuanshan pondered for a while and turned to look at everyone. Earlier, the small demon said that they saw the light and said that the opportunity had arrived. Opportunity? The opportunity to find the whereabouts of the great sage? How the hell do we know what the opportunity is? Luo Xingyi stomped his feet gloomily. The whereabouts of the great sage? Isn't it obvious? They attacked Holy Mountain and must have died there. Do you think Holy Mountain of Buddha is so easy to attack? Based on Little Meng's understanding of the journey to the west, even if Buddha died inexplicably, there were still Manjushri and Samantabhadra in Holy Mountain. How many bodhisattvas and arhats were there in Holy Mountain? Holy Mountain? Opportunity? Gu Changqing suddenly raised his head. Do you still remember the temple where we first appeared? The plaque of Big Lane Temple is the only thing related to Holy Mountain. Yeah, that's right. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard Gu Changqing's words. They remembered the information they got from the small demon. Everyone appeared in the temple. A beam of light shot up into the sky. The demon said that this was the opportunity. There was a plaque of Big Lane Temple in the temple. That meant the opportunity is that plaque. Everyone looked up at Gu Changqing. I didn't expect that I'd keep this. It's the key to breaking out of this situation. Gu Changqing smiled and took out the plaque of Big Lane Temple. He handed it to Little Meng. You're the only one here who's related to Buddhism. You can study this. Only Little Meng was from Buddhism. It was better to let a monk handle something that belonged to a monk. I haven't been a monk for many years. Little Meng touched his head and reached out to take the plaque. If the opportunity is to enter Holy Mountain, then we don't have to worry about the demons outside. If they could find a way to enter Holy Mountain and hide there, the demons outside would not be able to find them. But how could they enter Holy Mountain? I'm just a fake monk. When I was in Shaolin Temple, I only practiced martial arts. I didn't even read many Buddhist scriptures. How would I know how to enter Holy Mountain? Where to find Holy Mountain? Little Meng's heart skipped a beat. He reached out to take a small jade Buddha from his chest. His Suzy Yuan's body once had a similar small jade Buddha. The first time he entered the reincarnation space, the jade Buddha broke. Later, in a reincarnation mission, he received the same jade Buddha and a sentence. Where to find Holy Mountain? Wasn't the current situation suitable? Chapter 817. I don't know what will happen next. Little Meng took out the small jade Buddha and turned to look at the crowd. If we can open Spirited Mountain, it may be a way out. If we can't, we're all dead. Since we'll die sooner or later, what's there to be afraid of? Jiang Jiwei flicked her long sword and smiled carelessly. Exactly. Everyone nodded. In that case, I'll try. Little Meng reached out and pressed the small jade Buddha on the plaque of Big Lane Temple. He took a deep breath and shouted, Namo Shakyamuni Rulai, deliver all living beings and cross all suffering. For a fake monk like Little Meng, this Buddha's name was really a last-minute effort. Namo Shakyamuni Rulai, a mighty Buddha's name, sounded like thunder, shaking heaven and earth. This Buddha's name did not come from Little Meng, but from the plaque of Big Lane Temple. Buzz! The plaque of Big Lane Temple trembled, and the mighty Buddha's light soared into the sky. The Buddha's light, as clear as glass, diffused. It was bright, wise, and merciful. As this Buddhist light spread out, everyone felt as if their entire bodies, from their bodies to their souls, had been purified. The light gathered and turned into an illusory door with Buddha's light. The small jade Buddha flew out and was embedded in the light door. The illusory door slowly opened, revealing a scene of dense Buddha's light. The divine light was vast and clear, and the Buddha's sound was heard. It's really here. Everyone's faces were filled with joy. This was truly a miracle. The movement just now must have alerted the monsters outside. Let's go. They did not dare to delay and rushed into the Buddha's light door. If we want to enter Spirited Mountain, this plaque will be of great use. Little Meng reached out and lifted the plaque of Big Lane Temple. He held it in his hand and stepped into the light door. The opportunity has appeared. Quick, quick! 6 kings of half-step exterior scenery, and Murky, the king of emerald waves, rode the evil wind and rushed over. Damn it! The door of convenience is about to close. The door in front of them that was materialized by the Buddha's light was slowly closing. This made the great kings feel shocked and anxious as they rushed towards the door of light. The demon in front of him wore a phoenix-winged purple-gold crown. Pheasant feathers used as phoenix feathers. He was wearing a golden chainmail. This was real gold. He was wearing a pair of lotus-root silk cloud-walking shoes. I don't know what kind of silk it is. Fathead Fish, who was dressed like a great sage, held a pitchfork in his hand and rode a wave as he led the charge. Quick! Quick! Faster! Fathead Fish roared angrily. It risked its life and plunged into the light door just as it was about to close. When Fathead Fish rushed in, the light door exploded and disappeared without a trace. Spiritual Mountain is right in front of us, but we can't enter. I hate this. A few kings who had fallen behind for a moment were so angry that they beat their chests and stomped their feet, crying and wailing. This is Mount Numinous? Gu Changqing, Little Meng, and the others passed through the light door and appeared in a strange world. Buddha's light flickered in front of them, and Zen chants sounded in their ears. In front of them was a huge and boundless mountain that they could not see the peak or the end of. No wonder it's the holy land of Buddhism. The mountain was so huge that it was boundless. It was like a vast and boundless world. It was simply unimaginable. The light door disappeared after we came in. It seems that it's easy to hide here for 7 days. Guhuayan walked at the back. He turned his head and looked at the dissipating light door behind him. Then he turned back and laughed at everyone with a relaxed face. Watch out. At this time, Gu Changqing and the others looked behind Guhuayan in horror. They all waved their swords and rushed forward. What? Guhuayan was shocked and quickly looked back. He saw a fathead fish dressed like a great sage suddenly appear behind him. Its huge fish mouth, full of fangs, opened slightly and let out a cold laugh. Puff! The sharp steel fork pierced through his chest. Guhuai! And looked at the huge hole in his chest in panic. Looking at the blood spurting out, he stretched out his hand with difficulty. Finally, his neck tilted and he stopped breathing. Guhuayan! A teammate died in front of him. Little Meng was furious. He ran the 8-9 mysteries and poured all his genuine chi into the purple deceased sword. He slashed at the fathead fish fiercely. The purple-red sword chi soared into the sky and tore the sky. Little Meng seemed to have exhausted all his strength. His limbs were weak and his body trembled slightly. You're quite capable. The fathead fish grinned and waved the harpoon in his hand. Waves of light appeared in the sky. Waves rolled and raging tides surged. It was as if a great river was surging and the heavenly river was pouring down. Boom! The purple-red sword chi hit the waves and splashed countless water like a rainstorm. Then the sword chi dissipated in the waves. Clang! A sound of zither rushed out. Above the ninth heaven, a clear and sonorous sound came. It was the phoenix cry in the ninth heaven. It was the phoenix cry in the ninth heaven in the 12 sounds along one. The Ruan family of Langya was the most powerful martial art. Only those born with zither hearts could practice it. The sound of the phoenix cry made the fathead fish tremble as if he was struck by lightning. Puff! Ruan Yushu spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. An Eta sword. A bright sword light rushed out. Jiang Zhui waved her sword, and the sharp sword chi went straight between the fathead fish's eyebrows. Howren's sword. A sword light rose like the sun in the east. Gu Changqing in a cyan robe flew out and waved his sword. Yin and Yang's sword. Zhang Yuanshan roared and waved the samsara of life and death. The sword light alternated between light and darkness. Book of the Chaos, azure snow. Qi Jingyan waved his sword and ice and snow burst out. Fist of the Great Mountain. Luo, Shengyi waved his fist with mountain-like strength. 5 poisons powder. Fu Jinjin waved her hand and shot a bullet at the fathead fish. At this moment, everyone in the team took action. In addition to the idea of revenge for Guhuan, they also wanted to fight with all their might or they would be killed. Under the fathead fish's attack, huge waves surged up to the sky as if a big river appeared in front of them. The waves were turbulent and endless. It was already in the exterior realm. Looking at the fathead fish's appearance and strength, its identity was obvious. The king of emerald waves, Murky, the invincible king within 800 miles, a monster in the exterior realm. Roar! Even though the fathead fish's divine soul was attacked by the heavenly phoenix cry, it was still a monster of the exterior. When it was in danger, it still had the means to fight back. With a roar, the fathead fish opened its mouth and a light rushed out. A crystal-clear bead appeared in front of the fathead fish. It seemed to be condensed by endless water light. Inside the bead, there was the sound of waves rolling. Boom! A sky full of water rushed up like a water curtain, blocking in front of fathead fish. Boom! 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 The continuous attacks hit the water curtain, splashing water all over the sky like a torrential downpour. Crack! Cracks appeared on the translucent bead. The fat fish coughed out a mouthful of blood and staggered back a few steps. At the same time, the water curtain collapsed and a mighty wave swept out. Like being hit by a raging tide, the people who had just attacked were hit by the waves. They flew out one by one and fell to the ground far away. The violent impact made them vomit blood and fall to the ground. The power of the exterior realm was horrible. Chapter 8:18. You're all dead. Murky rode on the Tianxue light and stood at the head of the tide. He looked at the weary people below with a ferocious expression. His demon chi soared into the sky. He had been ambushed. If not for the damage to his monster elixir, he would have been defeated. How dare a few humans, a bunch of food, hurt me? How dare they? What should we do? They had tried their best in the previous round of attacks, but they had not caused much damage to Murky. How can we fight this battle? 1,000 karma points in exchange for a Chongqing sword chi of the first heaven of the exterior. Gu Changqing would not be stingy with his karma points. He spent 1,000 karma points in exchange for an exterior attack. Clang! A ray of sword chi soared into the sky. The sharp and cold sword radiance was like a white rainbow piercing the sun, soaring into the sky. As the sword slashed out, the heaven and earth yuan chi in the air gathered crazily and boiled. Endless chi of metal condensed and turned into a ray of sword radiance. A white rainbow pierced the sky. This is the surging heaven and earth yuan chi, and the incomparably sharp metal chi caused the surrounding heaven and earth to shine with white light. The sword chi stirred up the wind and clouds, tearing the sky apart. When everyone saw this sword chi, their faces were filled with shock. Is this the exterior? Brother Gu has broken through. Did he really break through at the critical moment? Damn it! Murky trembled at the sight of the sword chi. How could such a powerful swordsmanship exist? Murky had just entered the exterior and was not even at the first heaven. Although there was a huge difference between the exterior and the enlightened apertures, Murky was at the bottom of the exterior realm. Run! With a strange cry, Chuang Erba turned around and ran away like a stream of water. Chongqing sword chi, white rainbow, piercing the sun. Even though the fat fish had run away, Gu Changqing had already exchanged for this attack. He could not waste it. He had to give it a hard blow first. He swung his sword. The mighty white rainbow tore the sky apart. It cut through the wind and clouds, broke through the water, and hit the fat fish hard. Ah! Murky screamed in agony. His phoenix feather purple gold crown was broken. His golden chainmail was broken, and his pitch-black steel fork was broken in half. A deep gash appeared from his left shoulder to his right leg. Blood gushed out his wound. His bones were visible. If it weren't for the pitchfork, chainmail, and the fish scales on its body, this sword would have cut it in half. Fathead fish screamed all the way as it fled, not even daring to look back. Brother Gu, Gu Changqing had reached the exterior level. Everyone was shocked. This was simply a myth. He was even more terrifying than Bai Zhe. It's just a one-time use item. Gu Changqing shook his head. I haven't even reached oneness of heaven and men. How can I break through the exterior? I see. Everyone nodded. The dominator of samsara in the six realms did have a one-time item. For example, the demon-revealing mirror that everyone had exchanged for could be used 3 times, but in essence, it was not much different from a single-use item. Fathead fish won't be coming for the time being. Let's quickly enter the holy mountain. They did not know if this sword could scare fathead fish, so they hurried to bury Gohwayan's body and hurried to the holy mountain. Splash! When they reached the foot of the spirit mountain, a vast river blocked their path. The river looked ordinary, and there was nothing unusual about it. But could a river beside the holy mountain be an ordinary river? According to the Buddhist scriptures, everything in the river of the holy mountain sinks. Little Meng broke off a dead branch and threw it into the river. In an instant, the branch sank like gold and iron. Fortunately, we have this. Picking up the plaque of the Big Lane Temple, Little Meng smiled. The Gautama Buddha saves all sentient beings. It will be easy for him to cross the river. The plaque floated in the water and did not sink. This signboard was about 10 feet long. Since they all had lightness skills, they could still fit it if they squeezed together. Stepping on the plaque, they all crossed the river together. The plaque of the Big Lane Temple was indeed magical. Even if the waves in the river were rolling and surging, everyone stood on the plaque as if they were walking on flat ground and did not sway at all. As they crossed the river and the waves rolled, everyone felt that they seemed to have taken off the shackles and unshackles. Their whole body was refreshed from head to toe. My aptitude has improved? Everyone was surprised to find that the genuine chi in their body flowed more smoothly and freely. Between breaths, the chi of heaven and earth rolled in. It was several times better than before. Reborn, shed the mortal body. Little Meng smiled and pointed to the river. Look, that is our mortal body. Looking in the direction that Little Meng was pointing at, everyone was shocked to find that there was another Little Meng slowly sinking into the water. Sure enough, we shed the mortal body. They had not officially set foot on the holy mountain, but they had such an opportunity. Everyone was very happy. The holy mountain of the Gautama Buddha was indeed extraordinary. Soon after, everyone reached the other side. After walking for a while, a magnificent stone gate stood at the foot of the mountain. At this moment, the stone gate was already tattered, but it still looked magical. This dilapidated stone door actually covered everything behind it. It could not be seen or heard, as if it was isolated from the world. Once we pass through this gate, we will officially enter the holy mountain. Buddhists open the door of convenience. Naturally, the stone gate of the holy mountain would not stop anyone. Just as they were about to enter the holy mountain, everyone composed themselves and stepped through the stone gate. It was as if they had passed through endless time and space. In a flash of light, everyone arrived at another world. Boom! Strong winds blew, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Countless flashes of lightning and gusts of wind howled. The lightning and wind were like coiling dragons. In the middle of the wind and lightning, a gigantic iron rod could be vaguely seen. It was like a pillar that supported the heavens with golden hoops on both ends. Around the iron rod, there were numerous green lotus flowers that bloomed and withered. Every single lotus seemed to contain a world that was filled with stars and spiraling galaxies. It was vast and boundless. Old sun, will not cultivate in the afterlife. A thunderous roar reverberated through the ages and shook the world. The great sage, heaven's equal. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard the roar and saw the Jingu Bang that extended to the heavens. Whether it was the transmigrator Xiao Meng or the others in the local world, they were all stunned by the scene in front of them. Such heaven-shaking divine might seem to have even penetrated Spirit Mountain. What kind of strength was this? The Jingu Bang seems to be suppressing something. Seeing the Jingu Bang that seemed to have penetrated the holy mountain from the top of the mountain, Ruan Shuyu frowned and said in confusion, "It might not be suppressing. Maybe it's protecting?" Gu Changqing looked up at the Jingu Bang and said leisurely, "Remember what the demon said about looking for the great sage? The great sages attacked the holy mountain and never returned. Either they're all dead or the Jingu Bang is protecting them." That's none of our business. Xiao Meng shook his head. How could they provoke a great sage with their measly strength? Let's move on. We can return after hiding in the holy mountain for a few days. Once Murky attacked again, no one could stop him. The holy mountain was their only way out. Something happened in the morning, so I only wrote one chapter. Chapter 819. Should we do something to the spiritual mountain? Li Yu's gaze pierced through the void and looked at the journey to the west. He saw the gigantic rod that reached the heavens, the five-finger mountain, and the Bodhi tree. A playful smile appeared on his face. His posture is so good. If I don't kick him, I really won't feel comfortable. Reaching out his hand to knock on the table, a faint smile appeared on Li Yu's face. Ananda, I still scared you, right? Li Yu definitely couldn't expose himself. If he wanted to play a game with Ananda, he naturally had to think of other ways. In that world, I also took in a spiritual mountain, as well as the body of faith of the great Emperor Amitabha. Because his cultivation path did not match, I did not arrange for him to stay in the immortal mansion of the South Parting Island. Back then, the body of faith of the great Emperor Amitabha had carried the spiritual mountain and hundreds of millions of believers with the intention of opening the immortal road and entering the immortal domain. All the believers had died, and he had also fallen into Li Yu's hands. Isn't this world particular about self and additional self? The Amitabha from another world, according to this world, is the additional self of the Amitabha. The body of faith of the great Emperor Amitabha was also a great emperor. According to the division of strength in this world, his combat strength was definitely not inferior to the legendary realm. However, the great Emperor Amitabha could only act cool and run away. If he was caught by the Amitabha of this world, it would be troublesome. Li Yu chuckled and planned to play a game with Ananda. With the shell of the great Emperor Amitabha, I will act cool and run away. With the nature of the system, the supreme beings of this world shouldn't be able to find any clues. Even at Li Yu's current immortal emperor realm, he still couldn't find the existence of the system. He still hadn't figured out what the system was, so he didn't believe that the supreme beings of this world would be able to see the existence of the system. Then I'll give you a fright. The sudden appearance of the great Emperor Amitabha would definitely cause people to misunderstand that the Amitabha had returned. This way, it should be a mess, right? Making Amitabha the scapegoat and not being able to find out who made him the scapegoat. Presumably, it would be very interesting, right? He couldn't hold it in any longer. Young man, you guys play for a while. When the time comes, I'll let you guys watch a good show. Li Yu smiled, retracted his gaze, and began to prepare to stir up trouble. Spirit Mountain. Little Meng and the others walked along the mountain path. Fathead Fish is back. Gu Chanqing turned his head and looked behind him. The fat fish was riding on the water light and following them from afar. They stayed far away, neither advancing nor attacking. They simply followed from afar. This guy still hasn't given up on his evil intentions. Everyone also understood that Fathead Fish would definitely not let go of the opportunity to enter the spiritual mountain. It didn't attack because it was frightened by Gu Chanqing's sword. It didn't dare to take the risk. However, it wanted to enter Spirit Mountain, so it could only follow from afar. To everyone, this was a huge problem. We can only move forward. With Fathead Fish blocking their way back, everyone had to move forward. As they walked along the mountain path, the wind whistled around them, revealing a gloomy and terrifying aura. It made one shiver as if winter had arrived. The sacred ground of Spirit Mountain is like hell. What exactly happened back then? It was supposed to be a place where Buddha's light shone. Why was it so gloomy and terrifying like hell? Over there, little Meng, who was leading the way, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He pointed at the mountain path in front with a solemn expression. Hiss! Everyone gasped when they saw the situation in front of them. There was a huge snake that was hundreds of feet long. It was a dead snake. Its body was dark and gloomy. There was no vitality at all. Yellow rotten liquid flowed on its huge body, revealing its white bones. Black cheese surged all over its body. The vast black chi was gloomy and terrifying, revealing a cold and deathly stillness. The vast and boundless aura was like a vast and boundless ocean. It was also like the entire sky had collapsed. It heavily pressed down on everyone's hearts, causing them to tremble and their minds to tremble. What kind of power is this? Everyone trembled at the sight of the huge, dead snake. They could not summon up the will to resist. It's either a half-step to Dharmakaya or a grandmaster. As Su Wuming's disciple, Jiang Jiwei had some understanding of this kind of power. However, limited by her own strength, she could not make an accurate judgment. A half-step to Dharmakaya, a grandmaster. Everyone's hearts turned cold as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. If this thing was dead, it would be fine. If it could still move, the consequences would be unimaginable. Boom! Just as everyone was bewildered, the dead snake suddenly moved. The slightest movement of its enormous body caused a series of violent rumbles to ring out in the surroundings. Swoosh! Its closed eyes suddenly opened. Its blood-red eyeballs were like two red lanterns, emitting a dazzling bloody light. Snake dang! Behind them, Fathead Fish, who was following far behind, screamed and turned to run when it saw the huge snake in front of it. Even Fathead Fish was scared away. This snake dang must be a terrifying monster. However, Fathead Fish could run because it was far away. Little Meng and the others did not even have a chance to run. They were in the attack range of Snake Dang and had no chance to escape. All the corpses on Spirited Mountain have turned. Have they turned into zombies? How many demons have died in the attack? How many bodhisattvas and arhats have died? How terrifying would it be if all the corpses have turned? Thinking of this situation, everyone shuddered. Spirited Mountain is not a way out, it's a dead end. Amitba, help us. Fu Jinjin hugged Zhang Yuanshan's arm tightly. Her face was pale as she chanted the name of Buddha. Little Meng was stunned when he heard the name of Buddha. This is Spirited Mountain. What do you mean by saying Amitba in Gautama Buddha's Spirited Mountain? Isn't this the same as saying Confucius in Mencius's house? Little Meng wanted to complain, but he was not in the mood to do so. At this moment, a change quietly occurred. In Gu Changqing's samsara space, a talisman burned without him noticing. Amitba, the name of Buddha, sounded like thunder, shaking heaven and earth. The mighty light of Buddha shot up to the sky and covered the earth. Between heaven and earth, there was only the endless light of Buddha. It covered the entire sky and lit up the land. Flowers fell from the sky and golden springs gushed from the ground. Amidst the Buddhist light that filled the sky, a huge Buddha statue appeared. It was golden and had a merciful face. Suddenly, it was Amitba. Holy sh**t. Little Meng was stunned. Can I really call him Confucius in Mencius' house? Oh no. Can I really call him Amitba in Gautama Buddha's house? And it works as soon as I call it. It works as soon as I call it. Remove all karma and attain the Pure Land. Namo Amitba Night. In the light of Buddha, the golden Buddha put his palms together and chanted the Buddhist scriptures with a merciful face. Rebirth Mantra. Little Meng, who used to be a bald thief, knew about the rebirth mantra of Amitba. With this merit, I am willing to consecrate the Pure Land of Buddha. To report the 4 great favors, I have to endure 3 hardships. If you see or hear it, you will be enlightened. With this Sambhogakaya, we will live together in the Pure Land. The vast and mighty Buddha's light, as clear as glass, swept out like a tidal wave, covering the entire Spirited Mountain. Namo Amitba. At this moment, the entire Spirit Mountain was filled with countless Buddhist chants, and beams of light of Buddha rose into the sky. In the light of Buddha, the broken bodies of bodhisattvas and arhats, whose faces were covered in blood and tears, rose into the sky and burned their broken bodies. In the flames, these arhats and bodhisattvas seemed to have been liberated. They put their palms together and turned into beams of light with smiles on their faces. They were cast into the hands of the Amitba Buddha in midair. The hands of the Amitabha Buddha were as clear as glass and shining with infinite light, as if there was a pure land. As for the mutated demons, like Snake Dang, they turned into torches in the light of Buddha. Their souls turned into beams of light and were cast into the Buddhist kingdom in the palm. In a moment, the entire spirit mountain was cleansed. There was no trace of Inchi left. It had turned into a sacred and glorious land. Amitabha, why is he here? Why did he come back? In the depths of the spirit mountain, a guy who looked exactly like Little Meng jumped up in shock when he saw the light and the Buddhist statue. This man was Ananda. Amitabha, why is he here now? What the hell is going on? At this moment, in the void of chaos, terrifying beings woke up from their slumber. They looked at the world of the journey to the west and the sky above the spirit mountain in shock. Amitabha has appeared? How is this possible? At this moment, countless mighty figures in the world were scared out of their wits. They were so scared that their faces were pale and they were sweating all over. Elder Master, this is... In a certain space, a boy looked in the direction of the spiritual mountain in shock and cried out in shock. In front of the boy, a white-haired old Taoist was sitting cross-legged in front of a huge alchemy furnace. His eyes were half closed, as if he was in a deep sleep. "Don't worry about him," the white-haired old Taoist said, and closed his eyes to doze off again. The same scene happened in many places and in many spaces. Some changed their faces and quickly pinched their fingers to calculate. Some were inexplicably horrified and lost their wits. Some ignored them and continued to sleep. Some laughed involuntarily. How interesting. There seemed to be a flash of Buddha's light in the chaos, but there seemed to be no change. I can't figure it out. The arrival of Amitabha was just because that woman chanted the name of Buddha? How is this possible? Are you kidding me? Ananda kept pinching his fingers to calculate, but the result was the same, because that woman called Fu Zhenjin chanted the name of Buddha. Then Amitabha appeared. Are you kidding me? How many people in the world are chanting the name of Buddha? Why don't you come when others are chanting the name of Buddha? Why do you come when this woman chanted the name of Buddha? Ananda was going crazy. He was too busy today and couldn't update at 6. This chapter had 3,000 words. The number of words was not much less. Chapter 820. At this moment, Ananda was a little flustered. Amitabha, what do you want? His original body was still suppressed under the 5 Elements mountain, and the one who came out now was only an avatar. If Amitabha took this avatar, there would be nothing left to play with. However, Ananda did not dare to make any moves. Against an existence like Amitabha, even if he was at his peak, he would not be a match. Not to mention now, Ananda was frightened, but the other guy was even more frightened. Amitabha, even Amitabha is here. Murky, who had been following Little Meng and the others up the spirit mountain, was so frightened that he fell to his knees with a thud. It's over. It's over. Murky buried his head in the ground and trembled all over, not even daring to raise his head. The great sage and the others have attacked Spirit Mountain. They've even turned Spirit Mountain into this. Although Spirit Mountain is Gautama Buddha's place, it's still part of Buddhism. Amitabha, since Buddha has come here, will he conveniently take me in? This kind of thing seemed very possible. He had eaten so many people and killed so many people. What a great sin that was. Would he still have a good life if he fell into Amitabha's hands? He would not be able to see the light of day again without being suppressed for hundreds of years. However, Murky did not dare to move at all. He did not move, but someone else did. Go to hell. Little Meng took this opportunity to rush to Murky's side. Genuine chi burst out from his body and poured into the purple deceased sword. He slashed at Murky fiercely. Puff! The sword light whizzed past, and Murky was beheaded. The huge fish head rolled to the ground. Amitabha is here, and you still dare to attack? You still dare to kill? Murky breathed his last in disbelief. So what if he's Amitabha? I'm not a monk anymore, and I don't stop killing. Little Meng snorted and slowly sheathed his sword. Based on Little Meng's understanding of Amitabha, he would at most give a few words of advice. Little Meng was not a monk anymore, so he naturally had no scruples. Amipa, a Buddhist chant resounded. The large Buddha in the air glanced at little Meng, but did not say or do anything. After the Buddhist chant, the Buddhist light that filled the sky instantly dissipated, and the golden Buddha disappeared without a trace. As expected, Amipa doesn't care about this matter. Seeing the Amipa Buddha leave, little Meng felt relieved. In fact, he had only killed Murky because he was too timid. He's finally gone. He has nothing to do with me. Ananda also heaved a long sigh of relief. His heart that was in the air also relaxed. It's just that Amipa Buddha made such a fuss just to expiate the sins of the spirited mountain. Are you really here to show mercy? Confused, Ananda had no idea what the Amipa Buddha was up to. On the other side, the reincarnators heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the death mission was over just like that. Jinjin, you are too awesome. Ruan Yushu looked at Fu Jinjin in shock. She could not believe it. You just have to chant Buddha, and Buddha will come. Does Buddha belong to you? I just said it casually. I don't know. Fu Jinjin was completely confused. She did not know what was going on at all. Well, Fu Jinjin was really a scapegoat. There were countless powerful people in the world who also wanted to know what was going on. The result of the calculation showed that it was this girl who unintentionally chanted Amipa Buddha, and then Amipa came. It was simply a joke. In fact, it was a joke. The mastermind behind the scenes picked up the wine glass with a smile and drank it in one gulp. There's still plenty of time and opportunities. Let's play slowly. I originally planned to scare them and stir up trouble. I didn't expect to gain so much. After releasing Amipa the Great and expiating the dead bodhisattvas and arhats on the spirited mountain with the rebirth mantra, Liu also gained a pile of sariras. The Buddha's palm was created by Buddha. The bodhisattvas and arhats on the spirited mountain all practice the Buddha's palm, and the sariras are the condensation of the bodhisattvas and arhats cultivation. So, he got all the Buddha's palm. After analyzing these sariras and from the hands of these arhats and bodhisattvas, Liu gained the complete 9 styles of the Buddha's palm. No matter what, Buddha is still a strong person of the Nirvana realm. The Buddha's palm points directly to the Nirvana realm, and it can be used to verify the mini by Zay's glacier sword aura. With the Buddha's palm as a reference, Liu could completely analyze the essence of this world's skills. Thus, the glacier sword art he created could be completely compatible with this world and finally achieve the fruit of Tao. The exterior is to use one's own small world of the interior to interfere with the big world of the outside world, draw on the chi of heaven and earth, and integrate it into the attack. Above the exterior is Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is divided into man immortal, earth immortal, and divine immortal. The so-called Dharmakaya is the Dharma golden body. It is to use the chi of heaven and earth to condense an energy body that is engraved with one's own rules. Then, the mind, Dharma form, and body are combined into one, transcending the mortal world and ascending the path of immortality. When the Dharmakaya is cultivated to the extreme, it is the legendary realm. From all the projected worlds outside the real world, one can search for one's own projection, which is the additional self. All the additional self will be combined into one. The proof is the only true self. At the legendary realm, one already had the characteristics of being everywhere. Countless additional self were the true self, and there was only one true self. In a sentence, it was, you are one and all. You are one and countless. After the legendary realm is the creation realm. The legend realm is spread across countless spaces, and the creation realm starts to touch time. After experiencing the scouring of the long river of time, one's own Tao is sublimated, changing the rules of heaven and earth in a small area and mastering a part of the power of time. The cultivation of the power of time in the creation realm was to lay the foundation. The real master of time was the Nirvana realm. The Nirvana realm has already jumped out of the long river of time. unifying all the past, present, and future selves, and condensing one's own Tao into the embryonic form of fruit of Tao. Mastering all the mysteries of the universe, one can return to the beginning of heaven and earth. In this realm, in a sentence, you are the moment and also the eternity. As for the final fruit of Tao, it wasn't something that could be deduced by the Buddha's palm. This legendary realm's self and additional self, as well as the nirvana realm's unification of all the self on the long river of time, is very useful. Liu is now in the immortal emperor realm, and he could already control time and space. But he had never been involved in the cultivation of the additional self and the self. Before Emperor Huang became an immortal emperor, the dark immortal emperor went back to the long river of time and gave him a blow when he was weak. The dark immortal emperor suffered a backlash because of this. Liu frowned. This kind of situation should be caused by the different rules of the two worlds. After becoming an immortal emperor, the past had already been turned back and integrated into one, so there was no need to worry about being attacked by people who trace back time. But there were countless possibilities in the future. To occupy all these possibilities, it was impossible to do it without hundreds of millions of years of hard work. No wonder little Meng would choose, in this life, I don't ask about the past, and I don't cultivate the afterlife. Other than wanting to cut off the cause and effect of the past and future, I'm afraid he's also afraid of trouble. Liu understood this very well. I don't have so much time to waste here. A clerical error in the previous chapter, I wrote Fu Jinjin as Ruan Yushu. It has been changed. Chapter 8:21. That's not right. Liu was shocked and stood up. I'm in this world, so it's impossible for me to have a past life or an afterlife. Moreover, if you want to trace back to the river of time, my river of time isn't in this world either. Obviously, Liu was just a passerby in this world. He had traveled through countless worlds, and his river of time wasn't just a single world. Moreover, it was impossible for him to have a projection of his additional self in this world. Moreover, it was still unknown whether Liu had an additional self or not. I have to pay attention to this problem. Liu's face turned serious. If I can't complete these two crucial steps, it'll be troublesome. To advance to the legendary level, one needed to unify all the additional selves. To advance to the nirvana realm, one needed to unify the past life, present life, and future life, as well as all the other selves in the river of time. Of course, there were ways to solve this problem, and there were two. However, Liu didn't want to use either of them. One way was to cast his own imprint into this world. He would leave his imprint in countless projected worlds and give birth to additional selves. However, in this way, Liu would become a person of this world. He didn't know when he would be free from the endless entanglement of karma. The other way was to use Bai Zai. Since he was using Bai Zai's alternate identity, he would use Bai Zai's identity to collect Bai Zai's additional selves. However, there was a bigger problem with this method. If he collected Bai Zai's additional selves, would it be Bai Zai that was cultivated in the end? Or would it be Liu? If he cultivated to the end and lost himself, wouldn't he be stupid? Let's try to see if my projection exists in this world. He released his spirit and sensed the endless void. He searched for his projection in the void. He divided his spirit into billions and scanned the heavens. After a while, Liu let out a long sigh. As expected, my projection doesn't exist in this world. As for tracing back time, Liu didn't have a past life or an afterlife in this world. He didn't have a past or a future. Isn't my current state the same as little Meng's future path? Don't ask about the past. Don't cultivate the afterlife. Only strive to be the sovereign of this world. In this world, Liu did not have a past life, nor did he have an afterlife. Even in this life, he had only been here for a short period of time. Furthermore, in this short period of time, no imprints were left behind. I see. Other than going back to the era of Heavenly Emperor Huang and deliberately leaving behind the past, Liu had no past or future in any world, only the present. Supremacy of a generation. This is the supremacy of a generation. There is no need to sever the past or the future. There is no need to sever the past or the future. Liu is the one and only. He was eternal. I'm really being stubborn. Liu laughed involuntarily and shook his head. His realm had long surpassed the rules of heaven and earth. He had long transcended the shackles of time and space. He had long surpassed the legendary level, and even his combat power had surpassed the Nirvana realm. Now, he actually wanted to add another restriction on him. That was really putting the cart before the horse. Therefore, even though the Ice River Swordsman by Zay has yet to step into the exterior realm, he already possesses the characteristics of the Nirvana realm. It was one, but also 10,000. It was an instant, but also an eternity. Of course, this was meaningless. It was impossible for Liu to let this smuff of Baizé reveal the essence of the Nirvana realm. Therefore, he treated it as if he had changed to a new profession and started training from level 1. However, there was no need to do those advancement quests and class change quests. The path has been paved, but I still have to continue using the reference technique. With the Buddha's palm in hand, he had already completely verified the Ice River Sword Art and pointed straight to the other side. However, in order to transcend the other side and achieve the Tao fruit, he still needed to learn from many sources. The future Little Meng has obtained the title of Heavenly Lord Yuanshi and also the inheritance of Heavenly Lord Yuanshi. The Heavenly Lord Yuanshi represents the primordial chaos. It is very consistent with my own path, so I must learn from it. Liu's path went from the qi of Xian Huang of the origin of matter to the qi of yin and yang of the origin of order, and finally returned to the primordial chaos. Therefore, the Heavenly Lord Yuanshi's Heavenly Golden Scripture and Premier 9 Seals were very worthy for Liu to learn from. Of course, I won't learn the Heavenly Golden Scripture and Premier 9 Seals completely. My Premier and the Premier of the Heavenly Lord Yuanshi can't be the same. Liu understood this very well. He had experienced it once when he became an emperor at the Huangtian Emperor's place. Everyone's path was different, so naturally it was impossible to copy. However, Liu thought of another question. In my impression, there are still many worlds with the Heavenly Lord Yuanshi and the 3 Pristines. What is the relationship between the 3 Pristines of this world and the 3 Pristines of other worlds? Since the Heavenly Lord Yuanshi of this world had the characteristics of the only one in all worlds, then, to another level, in all the worlds with the 3 Pristines that Liu knew, was there also a Heavenly Lord Yuanshi who was above the heavens and was the only one in all worlds? This question didn't need to be answered for the time being. If it was really as Liu imagined, there was still a Heavenly Lord Yuanshi above the heavens and the myriad worlds. Then, he must have reached Liu's position of his final realm. The ultimate source of the myriad worlds, all space-time, and the immeasurable plane. The matter of Spirited Mountain is basically over. Although Ananda was left untouched, this was Little Meng's shackle, of course. He had to break free himself. Ananda, as the most capable disciple of Buddha, had a reputation second only to Tathagata in Spirited Mountain. However, this guy was not a good person. Not only did he cause the demon race to attack Spirited Mountain, but he also killed all the bodhisattvas and arhats of Spirited Mountain when the demon race attacked Spirited Mountain. Ananda turned Buddha into a demon and turned Spirited Mountain into the 9 underworlds. Although he was suppressed by Buddha, because of this, he could only split out an avatar until now. However, he stirred up a storm and brought chaos to the world, almost destroying the entire ancient era. Everything he did was nothing more than for the fruit of Tao. Unfortunately, he was still chopped up by Little Meng in the end. He can't even be considered the final boss. At most, he can be considered a passing boss. Liu smiled and looked at the endless void. This era is coming to an end. The next era will be started by the primitive emperor Little Meng. At the critical moment of this era's birth and death, it is the time to achieve the fruit of Tao. A lot of people are making preparations, and all of them are making underhanded moves. Liu touched his chin and smiled. So, I'm scheming too. With a flick of his finger, a stream of light silently fell into Gu Changqing's samsara space. Gu Changqing, it's time to develop a few teammates. While Little Meng and the others had not reached the exterior and were not qualified to be on the investiture of the gods, and had not controlled their life and death in the hands of Liya, he secretly replaced them and became the king of Samsara. With the ability of the system, it's not a problem to hide from Liya, Ananda, and the others. When the time comes, let's see who will be the one to cheat who. Liu laughed. Chapter 822. The death task is over. Little Meng and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they heard the prompt from the dominator of Samsara in 6 realms. Finally, we can go back. The death mission this time was too frightening. Even Embark came out. They were involved in a fight between 2 powerful figures. Even the slightest ripple could kill them. Everyone, I have something to give you. At this moment, Gu Changqing took out a few talismans and passed one to each of them. This is good stuff. Remember, open it when you get back to the main world. What's this? Everyone was confused when they saw the talisman in their hands. They could not tell what it was. You'll know when you get back to the main world. Gu Changqing nodded. Then, everyone's figures began to fade. The dominator of Samsara in 6 realms had started to send them back to the main world. Little Meng was in a trance and returned to a yard in Yi City in the main world. Gu Changqing is being so mysterious. What is he doing? Little Meng took out the amulet that Gu Changqing had given him and examined it closely. Little Meng could not tell what it was. It's a talisman. Open it and see. Little Meng knew Gu Changqing well. Since Gu Changqing said it so seriously, it must be something important. Little Meng opened the talisman without hesitation. Samsara traveler Gu Changqing invites you to join God's team. Do you agree? The voice in his head stunned Little Meng. Then he smiled and shook his head. So he's being so mysterious. So he wants to team up. I agree. He had met Gu Changqing in a few missions, but they were not in the same Samsara square. Obviously, Gu Changqing was not in their team. If he teamed up with Gu Changqing, the team would be stronger. This was a good thing. Samsara, traveler Meng Qi, has joined God's team. God's invitation is a symbolic item for samsaric travelers. It can send messages and has a storage space of 100 feet. It can change its appearance. Please choose your appearance. Little Meng heard another prompt right after he said agree. The invitation has become a symbolic item. Thinking of the word Lord God, Little Meng naturally thought of the Lord God's iconic wristwatch. You can choose the shape at will, and it even has a storage space of 10 feet. This Team Prime is really generous. With a single thought from Little Meng, the talisman exploded into a beam of light. When the light dissipated, a jade ring fell into Little Meng's hand. Sure enough, it's a storage space of 10 zhong. Little Meng grinned. It's a must-have for a transmigrator. It took me so long to get it. I guess I'm not doing so well. Ding. Your teammate, Jiang Jiwei, is online. Ding. Your teammate, Zhang Yuanshan, is online. Next were Ruan Yushu, Fu Jinjin, Qi Jingyan, and Luo Shengyi. F***CK. Little Meng's mouth was wide open, and he couldn't close it for a long time. I've already transmigrated to another world, yet I can still hear such a familiar voice. Welcome, everyone, to the God King's team. Let's meet at Samsara Square. Just use the items that the invitation letters have turned into, and so return to the party space in your heart. Gu Changqing's voice was transmitted to everyone's mind. You can do that? Little Meng had always been passive when he entered the 6 realms of Samsara. He was pulled in by the dominator of Samsara in the 6 realms. Now, this Team Prime could enter voluntarily. Return to the party space. With a single thought from Gu Changqing, the world changed. Little Meng found himself in a huge square. It was a square made of white jade. It was quaint, exquisite, and elegant. Around the square, there were many arched halls with heavy eaves. It was quaint and exquisite. In the middle of the square, a light ball with a diameter of 10 zhong floated in the air. It emitted a faint white light, illuminating the entire square. It's really the prime? Seeing this familiar light ball, little Meng's body shook. No way. The dominator of samsara in the six realms is a relative of the prime? Little Meng. Gu Changqing called out to him while little Meng was still in a daze. Coming, little Meng answered. He walked over to Gu Changqing with a belly full of doubts. At this time, the others arrived as well. Everyone looked curiously at this unfamiliar samsara square, their faces full of surprise. Everyone's here. We're teammates from now on. Gu Changqing smiled and nodded. He pointed at the houses around the square. Those houses are our rooms in the samsara square. Everyone can choose one. Also, if you want to exchange something, you can use the invitation letter as a prop. You can also exchange it with a light ball. 10 zhang of storage space. Gu Changqing, you're so generous. Everyone raised their prime props. Some were bracelets, some were jade pendants, some were earrings, and some were necklaces. They all looked at Gu Changqing in shock. Ruan Yushu's storage ring was equivalent to a precious weapon. Now, Gu Changqing had given each of them a storage item with a bigger storage space. How rich was he? This isn't a gift from me. Gu Changqing pointed at the light ball in the middle of the square. The dominator of samsara gave it to me. I heard it's a basic configuration. Damn. Gu Changqing, are you the dominator of samsara's illegitimate son? Why is he so nice to you? Little Meng screamed. His mouth was wide open, and he couldn't close it for a long time. Your basic configuration is a treasure like this? Who would believe that you have nothing to do with the dominator of samsara? Gu Changqing rolled his eyes. His face was gloomy. Huh? Come on. The exchange here is different from ours. Jiang Jiwei was looking at the exchange items through the prime god props that had turned into a bracelet. Jiang Jiwei cried out in surprise when she saw the exchange list in her mind. It's really different. Everyone quickly opened their prime god props and cried out in surprise when they saw the exchange items. Other than secret martial arts manuals, weapons, pills, and materials, there are also daily miscellaneous items to exchange. There's also a one-time skill exchange. Did you see that? There's also alchemy and weapon refining functions. You can provide your own materials to refine pills and weapons here. We can exchange in the main world. We don't have to return to the samsara square. We can exchange anytime, anywhere. That's so convenient. Wow, what's this? Team instant messaging? You can contact your teammates anytime, anywhere, no matter where you are. There's also a team shared storage. Screams rang out one after another. After looking at these things, everyone's eyes widened as they stared at Gu Changqing. What's wrong? Gu Changqing felt uncomfortable under everyone's stares. You're definitely the dominator of samsara's illegitimate son. Little Meng jumped up and yelled. Compared to their reincarnation space, Gu Changqing's reincarnation space was like a platinum deluxe version. Comparisons were odious. They were all samsara travelers, but how could they be treated so differently? Chapter 823. All right, stop fooling around. Gu Changqing knew that his reincarnation space was special, but he had never seen anyone else's reincarnation space. He didn't know the difference between them. We've gained a lot from the journey to the west. Gu Changqing took out the bodies of the wolf demon, the nine-headed lion, and the fat-head fish. I have some more here. Ruan Yushu took out the wolf demon's hammers and the nine-headed lion's club. Apart from that, after the Ba cleansed the sacred mountain, everyone also searched the sacred mountain in the next few days. There were all kinds of broken Buddhist weapons and demon weapons. The most magical items were a green lamp and a plaque with the words Tempest Temple on it. Yes, the reincarnators didn't care about anything else when they searched the place. The sacred mountain was destroyed anyway. The signboard of the Great Lane Temple was useless there. If they took it, the Buddha wouldn't mind, right? The Lord of Samsara can appraise it for free. Everyone, help me clean up this mess. Gu Changqing looked at the pile of junk in front of him, and his mouth twitched. After Ba cleansed Spirited Mountain, everyone spent the next few days scraping the ground. If they saw something special, they would search it clean. Fortunately, the sacred mountain was too big. They only searched a small area in the past few days. But they had a lot of loot in this small area. Buddha's lamp. Little Meng used his ring to appraise the only intact green lamp. He was shocked by the result. The Buddha's lamp. It's a divine weapon. Boundless Buddhist light illuminates the world and the boundless world. It's capable of purifying evil, ghosts, and vengeful spirits, and igniting karma. It's capable of protecting oneself from all evil. Little Meng trembled when he read the description. A divine weapon. What did a divine weapon mean? It was the power of a Dharmakaya. With a divine weapon, he could do whatever he wanted. Unfortunately, Little Meng's face fell when he read the description. The green lamp is already broken and has lost the power of a divine weapon. It can only expel evil spirits and restrain evil spirits, but it can't burn cleanly. At the same time, it can shrink to the size of a bean. The flame won't burn anything, and it's equivalent to an ordinary precious weapon. The divine weapon had become a precious weapon, and it had dropped by a whole realm. He had fallen from Dharmakaya to the exterior. Well, at least it's a precious weapon. Other than that, the plaque of Great Lane Temple that everybody had high hopes for only had the function of opening the door of convenience to the spiritual mountain. With Gautama Buddha's realm, this plaque naturally can't have any other functions. No matter how many functions it has, it won't be of any use. Throwing away the signboard, all that was left was a pair of broken pieces. Regardless of whether it was a broken Buddhist artifact or a broken demon weapon, they could only be used as materials. They no longer had any other abilities. Even the seemingly intact Buddha's lamp, a divine weapon, had fallen to the level of a precious weapon. These broken Buddhist artifacts and demon weapons naturally did not leave behind any divine abilities. It just so happens that we can use these things to refine artifacts. Let's upgrade our weapons. In this journey to the West Mission, if several precious weapons were used at the same time, Murky would not even be able to withstand a round of attacks and would be blown up on the spot. Therefore, in a situation where one's realm could not be broken through immediately, upgrading one's equipment was also an important way to improve one's strength. Exactly. The samsara space of this king god team also had the function of refining artifacts, which was perfect for the current situation. Therefore, everyone sat cross-legged in front of the pile of broken pieces and began refining artifacts. Following the instructions of the king god's tool, they rummaged through the pile of broken pieces and collected a pile of materials. My fogbow sword is already a superior refined weapon. This time, it can be upgraded to the level of a precious weapon. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, the fogbow sword in Jiang Zhiwei's hand floated in front of her. The five-colored brilliance lingered, and various materials flew out of the storage space one after another, melting into a ball of shining white, incomparably sharp molten metal. The molten metal fell onto the fogbow sword, and in a flash of five-colored brilliance, it instantly merged into one. When the brilliance dissipated, the newly refined fogbow sword fell into Jiang Zhiwei's hand. Fogbow sword, a lower-grade precious weapon. Jiang Zhiwei sheathed the sword and reported the result of refining. Good. Me too. After that, everyone began to upgrade their weapons one by one. Since Little Meng had a precious weapon, the purple deceased sword, he upgraded his long saber to a precious weapon. Thunder saber, a lower-grade precious weapon. This was Little Meng's newly upgraded long saber. Dragon-striped golden sword, a lower-grade precious weapon. Qi Jingyan sheathed his sword, and the faint sound of a dragon's roar could be heard. Flying snake sword, a lower-grade precious weapon. Zhang Yuanshan patted the long sword at his waist, his face full of joy. Earth furnace, a lower-grade precious weapon medicinal cauldron. In addition to refining elixirs and medicines, it can also release earth fire to kill enemies and protect oneself. Fu Jinjin smiled and put away a palm-sized red furnace. Jiao Xiao Huan Pei, a lower-grade precious weapon musical instrument. The zither. Ruan Yushu touched the zither, nodded with a smile, and carried it on her back. Rock fist, also a lower-grade precious weapon. In Luo Xingyi's hand was a pile of dark yellow boxing gloves, which were as hard as a rock and as heavy as a mountain. My longsword is also a lower-grade precious weapon. Howren's sword. The light in Gu Chongqing's hand faded, and a magnificent and awe-inspiring long sword fell into his hand. Now, everyone's weapons are precious weapons. The attack is not bad, but the defense needs to be strengthened. Pointing at the three monsters, Gu Chongqing smiled and said, "Wolf skin, lion skin, fish skin, and the rest of the junk can be used as armor for everyone." Among the three monsters, the smallest wolf monster was dozens of feet long. With the other half of the junk, everyone could be equipped with protective equipment. One inner armor, one outer robe. Murky scales and fish skin could be used to make an inner armor. Wolf skin and lion skin could be used to make an outer robe. Good. In this way, we can attack and defend. Our strength will increase greatly. Everyone nodded with a smile and began to work. First, he skinned the three huge demonic beasts. After that, he picked out some tattered materials. Then they went to the houses around Samsara Square. Each of them found a room, and after entering, they began to refine their own armor. Soon, everyone gathered in the square again. The Samsara Master is really resourceful. Everyone's clothes were still the same. On the surface, there was no change. However, in essence, this set of clothes was already a very powerful armor. Fish scale inner armor, as thin as a cicada's wing and as light as a feather. Precious weapon level inner armor. Protective long robe, refined weapon level outer robe. These were Little Meng's armor and clothes. The others were similar to him. Murky was, after all, an exterior-level monster. Using its scales and other materials, it was able to make an inner armor of the precious weapon level. But the lion skin and wolf skin were not good enough. They could only be made into refined weapon-level clothes. Now, we're going to be rich too. Everyone had 2 precious weapons and 1 refined weapon. This was already very rich. Chapter 824. Take this Buddha's lamp, Little Meng. In the team, only Xiao Meng was a monk. Other than him, no one else was suitable to use a monk's item. Okay, who would complain about more precious weapons? Although Xiao Meng had a saber, a sword, and an inner armor, all of which were precious weapons, the Buddha's lamp would not be too much. He waved his hand and put the Buddha's lamp into the storage ring. Xiao Meng suddenly realized that he had a lot of possessions now. 4 precious weapons and a storage ring. Compared to the 4 families in East City, his possessions were even more powerful. Forget about the plaque of the Big Lane Temple. This thing is only used to open the door. And without the Dharma power of Buddhism, you can't open the door. Looking at the plaque of the Big Lane Temple, they threw it into the team public warehouse. The rest of the broken Buddhist weapons and demon weapons were collected by the Master of Samsara. They were exchanged for more than 1,000 karma points. Now, everyone has a main cultivation method and a complete set of weapons. What's left is to work on the moves. The main cultivation method could improve the cultivation realm, and the moves could improve the combat power. They complemented each other. Gu Chongqing smiled at everyone. It's still early for the next task. You can exchange anytime and anywhere. You can exchange for anything you want when you go back. Exactly. I'll take my leave then. This new reincarnation space was really too convenient and generous. Compared to the hard life before, this was what the samsara travelers should enjoy. Xiao Meng laughed, waved his hand, and left. Then, everyone left the samsara space and went back to their own places. Very good. You made another sneaky move without anyone noticing. Liu smiled and nodded. Put these people's souls under the protection of the system. Even if Luya writes their names on the investiture of the gods, even if Ananda uses the samsara seal to control the cycle of life and death, he can't do anything to them. Looking up at the endless void, Liu had a mocking look on his face. Unknowingly, the fish in the pond have escaped. When the truth is revealed, your expressions should be very interesting, right? As a samsara traveler, the master of the sixth Tao of samsara, he was assigned a task that went against his conscience. He was asked to kill his friends and family and bring disaster to the world. What should he do? This was the greatest helplessness and worry of the samsara travelers. Kill. His heart was unwilling, not killing. He was about to be killed by the dominator of samsara in the six realms. This was a difficult choice. So, young man, you don't have to choose now. They can't do anything to you anymore. Liu knocked on the table and nodded with a smile. Of course, Liu was being kind, but that was not all. Gu Changqing's samsara space was essentially a system. Everyone in this team was actually in the system. All the information was displayed in front of Liu. For example, as expected of the Devil Master, as expected of someone who could kill his way into the heavenly court and fight with the Celestial Emperor. What he has learned is as vast as the ocean. It's extraordinary. When Qi Jingyan, the successor of the Devil Master, entered the samsara space of the Master God team, all the Devil Master's inheritance that he had obtained fell into Liu's hands. All kinds of Devil Path martial arts and other martial arts. There are no less than 100,000 of them. Of course, these things were treasures to others. To Liu, they did not mean much. What was really useful was the essence of the Devil Master's flesh and blood. It's similar to being reborn from a drop of blood. Every drop of flesh and blood can be reborn, and one can imprint one's own true spirit and memory in the flesh and blood. Liu could tell that this so-called inheritance was actually a method of resurrection. What a pity. The Devil Master's true spirit mark is gone. In a battle between Nirvana realm masters, if the enemy was not completely wiped out from the river of time and space, they could not be killed at all. The death of a Nirvana realm master was truly and completely erased from the river of time and the endless void. Without the true spirit mark, the inheritance was really just an inheritance. The Devil Master's method of being reborn from a drop of blood is somewhat similar to my man's celestial martial arts, but there is still a difference in essence. After all, the Devil Master was a devil. So, for his drop of blood to be reborn, it was to parasitize a host and then transform the host into a devil's body. There is still a difference between it and Liu's drop of blood that could directly reconstruct the body. This thing is just SOSO. There was not much value in the Devil Master's inheritance. Even those vast freedom heavenly devil true body, Inferno Emperor's true body, and Nether true body were just SOSO in Liu's eyes. Techniques that did not enter the Nirvana realm were meaningless. I just have to wait for the rest, but I still have to speed up the progress. It's a waste of time to let Little Ming wander around Jianghu like this. Liu looked up at the void. The smile on his face was very strange. Gu Shaoxing, the beacon of the Queen Mother of the West returned from chaos, is also a fish of the Queen Mother of the West. In the original Fate, Gu Shaoxing fought against Fate alone against the Queen Mother of the West. After falling in love with Little Ming, Gu Shaoxing sacrificed the only chance for Little Ming to escape from the control of the Queen Mother of the West. She could escape from the control of the Queen Mother of the West if she ate both of the present life fruits. But she gave one to Little Ming, because Little Ming was also someone else's fish. In one of the death missions of the Dominator of Samsara in 6 realms, Little Ming received a mission. Kill the demoness of Grand Luo, Gu Shaoxing, or be obliterated. Then, Gu Shaoxing sacrificed herself. Little Ming was silent for 10 years, guarding Gu Shaoxing's tomb. She was a strange woman who bravely faced desperate situations, bravely fought, never gave up, and never bowed to fate. The Golden Emperor Queen Mother of the West was the biggest boss in the later stage, although she was conned by the 3 Pure Ones and Little Ming in the end. But she also tortured Little Ming and Gu Shaoxing to death. Liu chuckled. Since you will be conned by others sooner or later, I will also conspire with you. I'm sure you won't mind if I trick you as well, right? With a flick of his finger, a message was sent into Little Ming's Master God tool storage ring. Random mission issued. Mission description: Demoness of Grand Luo, Gu Shaoxing, obtain the celestial court stone tablet, obtain the opportunity to enter the 9 levels of heaven of the ancient celestial court. Mission: find Gu Shaosang and enter the ancient celestial court with her to explore the secrets of the celestial court. Mission reward: reveal the truth of transmigration. A series of notifications suddenly sounded in his mind, making Little Meng's whole body tremble. Regardless of the random mission or the demoness of Grand Luo, just the truth of transmigration alone scared Little Meng so much that his face turned pale. As a transmigrator, what was he most afraid of? It was being found out that he was a transmigrator. Now, the biggest secret was found out by the dominator of samsara. Just like that, Little Meng broke out in a cold sweat, greatly shocked. Chapter 825. Well, since this world has countless time and space, it shouldn't be rare to travel through time and space. Little Meng remembered that he had traveled through many worlds to complete tasks with the dominator of samsara in 6 realms. According to this situation, traveling through time and space should not be a secret. After comforting himself, Little Meng let out a long breath and slowly calmed down. This random task is very dangerous. Thinking of the horror of Siren of Grand Luo Gu Shaosang, who was ranked 4th on the ranking list of young masters, he could not defeat her. Little Meng knitted his brows tightly. The 9 levels of heaven of the ancient heavenly court. If it is the heavenly court that I know, Peach Garden, Jasper Lake, Heavenly River, Southern Heavenly Gate, Lingxiao Palace, how dangerous would it be? Even in the legends of this world, the demonic lord attacked the heavenly court and caused it to fall. Logically speaking, the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals should have all died. However, wouldn't there be any immortal weapons or divine weapons left in the heavenly court? Wouldn't there be any immortal arrays or divine arrays left? If I go in like this, the slightest fluctuation of power can crush me into powder. Little Meng suddenly felt that this random task was more terrifying than the death task. Is it because we borrowed the power of Amitabha to complete our death mission? Is that why it's a punishment mission? Let's ask the others first. Little Meng picked up the storage ring and sent a message to his teammates. Did you receive any random tasks? What is a random task? We're all back. How can we receive any task? We don't have any. Everyone was talking at once. Little Meng understood that this was his personal task and no one else's. Well, this is a special favor from the dominator of samsara in 6 realms. Little Meng sighed and turned off the communication. Hint: my name is the dominator of samsara, not the dominator of samsara in 6 realms. Hearing this, Little Meng was stunned. Is there a difference between the dominator of samsara and the dominator of samsara in 6 realms? Let's not worry about this for now. Let's focus on the present. The present problem was the big problem. Although he had met Gu Shaosang several times, they were still enemies. Can the Alliance and the tribe really team up? Even if we can team up, what if Gu Shaosang comes to save me? Or would you reward me with a strike of the Ajati matriarch, vacuum hometown? At this moment, Little Meng suddenly felt a strong sense of malice from this random task. Bah, a dog biting Lu Dongbin. You don't know how to appreciate good intentions. Liu glared at him and cursed angrily. Of course, Little Meng could not hear Liu scolding. He frowned and thought about how to complete this task. First of all, we have to find Gu Shaosang. If they couldn't even find him, then there was no need to consider forming a party to clear the instance dungeon. But the Daluo sect's holy maiden, who was born in the evil sect, would definitely appear and disappear unpredictably even if she was traveling in Jianghu. Where could he find her? No matter what, I definitely won't be able to find Gu Shaosang if I stay at home. Let's go to the city and get in touch with the people of Jianghu and find out more about it. Little Meng walked out of the house and onto the streets of East City. River East was the core area of Great Jean and the most prosperous place in the world. Walking out of the house, not far away was a famous and bustling street in Yi City, Jade Bridge Street. At this moment, the shops on both sides of the street were decorated with lanterns and colored banners. The brilliant lights reflected in the Yi River that flowed through the city, as if the Milky Way had fallen from the sky. The lights were as brilliant as stars. This was one of the busiest streets in Yi City. There were all kinds of shops selling weapons, elixirs, secret manuals, banks, pawn shops, and restaurants. After crossing the Jade Bridge, there was a 5-kilometer-long pink alley and gold squandron brothel. The place was filled with the sounds of orioles and swallows. It was a dazzling sight. Stepping onto the Jade Bridge, little Meng's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt like he was being spied on. He looked up and saw a girl in a white cloak standing on the Jade Bridge with an exquisite silver hairpin in her hand. She looked at little Meng with a sweet smile. Her features were picturesque and ethereal. Her eyes were like stars, bright and moving. Gu Xiaosang. Little Meng's heart tightened, and he subconsciously pressed on the hilt of the sword at his waist. Husband, does this hairpin look good on me? Gu Xiaosang casually inserted the hairpin into her hair. The fluffy white hair on the cloak added a bit of playfulness and cuteness to her. The people on the bridge were weaving together, and the lights flowed under the bridge. A beautiful girl gently called husband. The scene was like a dream. Damn it. Fortunately, she didn't call him father. Little Meng would not find it strange, no matter what a mental patient like Gu Xiaosing did. One moment it was Yu Longzi, and the next moment it was Gu Xiaosing. This was obviously schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder. This kind of person, you can't keep up with her. Miss Xiaosang is a natural beauty. She looks good on anything. Although Gu Xiaosang made little Meng face great pressure, he could not show his fear at this time. Little Meng looked calm and answered casually, as if he was talking to someone casually. Husband, don't you understand my feelings? Why do you sound so distant? Do you really want Xiaosang to dig out her heart for you to believe Xiaosang? Gu Xiaosang's face was full of resentment and looked heartbroken. Well, let's talk about business. Little Meng really could not keep up with the mental patient. He had to change the topic. Miss Xiaosang, what brings you to Yi City? What reason does a wife need to see her husband? Gu Xiaosang smiled sweetly and shyly. Father, little Z misses you. Xiaosang misses you too. Our child misses you too. Damn it, little Meng staggered. Did you really call him the father of your child? If Miss Xiaosang continues to talk like this, I won't keep you company. At this moment, little Meng had no hope of completing the random task. It was too stressful to team up with a mental patient to complete the task. Even if I am reckless monk, I can't stand her cheating all the way. Husband, this concubine was bullied. I can only cry to you. Gu Xiaosang walked up to little Meng with light steps and a fragrant wind. I chased after the successor of Mystic Fairy. That little bitch dared to hurt you. Of course, I won't let her go. Gu Xiaosang had used the secret voice-sending technique to speak to Lin Mingya. The successor of Mystic Fairy? Little Meng was stunned. When did I offend the Ninth Heaven Fairy? Husband, you're still pretending. Gu Xiaosang pointed at the purple thunder god mark on the back of little Meng's hand. Husband, you should know the relationship between the Ninth Heaven Fairy and the Overlord, right? Husband, you have the thunder god mark and are the best heir to the tyrant's invincible blade. Tell me, is the little bitch from the Mystic Fairy clan here to give you the tyrant's invincible blade and the inheritance of the Overlord out of kindness? Or is she here to capture you and turn you into a battle puppet of the Mystic Fairy clan? This is really an unexpected disaster. Little Meng was depressed. According to the style of the Mystic Fairy, they were one of the two branches of the same sect as the Bodhisattva of Joy. Even if little Meng was reckless monk, how many bones would he have left after falling into the hands of the Mystic Fairy? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.